All right, go ahead.
We ready to go? Okay, thank you. Welcome to this City of Manistee Planning Commission, September 3rd, 2020. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we take roll, I just have a couple comments. To keep the meeting on track, please keep your comments short and to the point. And also, we do not need to go past 9 p.m. The past few meetings, we've been 9:30. I'd like to wrap it up by 9 o'clock. So with that said, please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Here.
Commissioner Samansky,
He's got his mic muted.
Commissioner Samansky,
Present.
Commissioner Manberto,
Here.
Commissioner Weiner. Commissioner Weiner,
Looks like Pam's muted.
Oh, that happens. Seems to happen to Pam a lot.
That one was on you, Mike.
Sorry.
I'm here.
okay. Commissioner McBride,
Trying to get Marlene to unmute right now. See what's going on. If she's unable to, I know she's here, but hold on. Pop her in the waiting room. Bring her back down. See if we can get her unmute. She's virtually present, but
yeah.
Marlene, I hate to do this, but could you please dial back in?
Okay, I'll keep going. Commissioner Yoder, Chair Whitliff.
Here. Thank you. Hey, Mike, should we wait for Marlene or let her enter?
Yeah, now I'm wondering, like, so this is supposed to be allowing me to unmute these people here. I'm going to ask them to unmute themselves, but I'm wondering if they're able to if they dialed in. It's problematic for the simple fact of if they're not on, it seems like they're able to, so that's good. All right.
I believe this is 9945 Rob McCurran. I think I was able to unmute successfully.
Oh, okay, great. So, all right, I'm going to mute you back up and take one from public number 11. Okay, I don't feel like we're restricting anybody, and that's really what I was afraid of, so.
All right, well, we'll just keep going and Marlene can join. Approval of agenda. At this time, the Planning Commission can take action to approve the September 3rd, 2020 agenda.
Mark,
A motion?
can I make an addition to the agenda?
Sure, Mike, go ahead.
I had Alyssa Lasky. We need an approval for a combination split. Well, just a recommendation to City Council on it. If we could add her under new business, under the 50 Arthur Street SUP transfer. I think that would be appropriate place for her.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda with the addition of Alyssa Lasky in new business.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mick, second by Bob. Any discussion? None, please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Samansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Manberto,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride. Is she on yet?
She's not on
She's not on
yet.
yet.
No.
Okay. Chair Whitliff.
Yes, thank you. Approval of minutes. At this time, the Planning Commission can approve the August 6th, 2020 minutes.
Make
Is
the
there a
motion.
motion?
I'll
Motion
make-
by Bob? Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Mick. Motion by Bob, second by Mick. Any discussion? None, please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Samansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Marlene off.
I think that's Marlene right here.
Chair Whitliff,
Yes. Thank you.
All right, 7917, is that you, Marlene?
Yes,
All right, sorry about
Okay.
that, Marlene.
Welcome,
that's
Marlene.
okay. Hey, thank you. I thought you didn't want me.
Oh, gosh, we need you.
All right,
Okay, moving on, public hearings, we have none tonight. Public comments on agenda-related items. With this, you have up to 3 minutes for comments. Please state your name and address before
all
speaking.
right. So how this is going to work, for those of you who haven't done this before, I'm going to go through the public one at a time, asking you to unmute yourself. If you have a comment, please state your name and address, and you have up to 3 minutes. As the chair had said, if you have no comment, please state that you have no comment. Public number 1, you're up.
Suzanne Riley, 113 Maple Street, no comment.
All right, thank you. Let me mute you back up. It pulls you around a little bit. Give me a second, guys. There we go. Public number 2. Public number 2. Oh, you just muted yourself back up. There you go.
Pass. No comment, thanks.
Okay. Oh, we lost public number 3, it looks like. So go to public number 4. Oh, you just muted back up, public number 4.
Hi, Catherine Kenny. Live at 409 Cypress Street. And I'm also with the Manistee County Visitors. And I know I communicated with a number of you about something.
Catherine, can you speak up?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
It's better.
Is that better?
Yes.
So I live at 409 Cypress Street, and I'm also the executive director of the Manistee County Visitors Bureau. And I reached out to you, I think yesterday, regarding some points of discussion for your short-term rental. Many of you received my email. I think that one of your emails bounced, but I'm just here to learn more about what you're considering and to be a part of the discussion.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to public number 5.
No comment at this time.
All right. Public number 6. All right, public number 6. I'm going to try one more time. Public number 6. All right, I'm going to move on to public number 7. Public number 7. All right, one final chance. Public number 7. All right, I'm going to move on. Public number 8. Public number 8.
It's not showing them as being able to unmute.
Okay. I'm asking them to unmute.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to. It's not always the easiest here. Hold on. Let's try that again. Try public number 6. No? Okay. I'm going to try public number 7. Still no. Okay. Public number 8. All right. Gonna move on to public number 9.
It's okay, baby.
Public number 9. All right. Moving on to public number 10. Public number 10.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
it looks like it's showing that it's muted from your side. It's got the phone with the cross across it.
Right. I'm asking them to unmute. I don't
But
know. If they're-
normally the unmute is just the
the mute key on
microphone
my
with the
end.
line
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah, I know. It usually allows me to do it. Unfortunately, it's not allowing me to. Let me try putting them in the waiting room and moving them back. That sometimes unlocks them. All right, so they're allowed to unmute themselves. They're not muted upon entry, and they should be able to do this. So let's see. Yeah, right now, Mick, I have no restrictions on them.
Public 9.
There's public number 9. Okay. Public number 9, do you have a comment?
I would like to comment on the short-term rentals.
Okay.
And I'm against the short-term rentals because I think they're a business taking place in a residential area. And I think they ought to look at this a lot more. And that's all I have to say at this point.
Can I get you to give us your name and your address, please?
Oh, this is Brian Chick at 276 First Avenue.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Chick is C-H-I-C-K.
And what was the address again?
276 First Avenue.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chick, if you want to go through your comments again.
I'm calling in about the short-term rentals, and I'm against it. I think that it's running a business in a residential area, and I think we ought to look at that a lot further. I don't think we should have this because it's taken away from people that should be able to rent a place or a place that's going to be for sale, somebody that's going to be a long-term person, instead of somebody looking at making profit.
All right, thank you. Public number 8, do you have a comment? Please identify yourself and your name if you do.
No comment.
All right, public number 7, did you have a comment?
Am I public number 7?
No, you're Marlene McBride.
No.
No.
I'm going to move on then to, we're at public number 10. Do you have a comment?
This.
Public number 10?
No comment.
No comment, okay. And I think there's one more, public number 11. Public number 11, do you have a comment?
Yeah, 11 looks like it's still muted.
Right. I know he was able to unmute himself earlier, so
Okay.
just wondering if he's got a comment.
Am I number 11?
No, I don't know who was talking. It flashed. It looked like Marlene, but I think you're public number 8.
8.
So
Yeah, it's number 8.
yeah, and then public number 11. I'm gonna move you back and forth just to make sure. All right.
Doesn't look like it.
All right, public number 11, do you have a comment? Going once? Oh, there you go.
Oh, not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on audio and I
No, I know what number I am.
Identification of what number we are. This is Robert McCurran. I'm owner applicant on the property at I'm sorry, 50 Arthur, and here for the special use permit.
Okay,
So,
you're actually on the agenda. I apologize.
Yeah, I'll talk then. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just didn't realize I'm still on public 11.
Yeah, I'm gonna rename you, Robert. You're renamed. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay, that is a public comment. So
Okay. All right, let's move along. New business, essential services request from Jeff McCullough with the city of Manistee.
all right, I can give you a little background, and then if Jeff wants to take it from there, I think that's appropriate. So the city of Manistee had requested to change their cold storage area. It's within your packets to Veterans Oak Grove Drive from the Glachetsky Drive, and I'll let Jeff take it from here on that.
Thank you. This is Jeff McCullough, the Public Works Director. The city manager's office has been working with a corporation that is looking to build a new facility within the industrial park. And the only location that meets their needs that is available is a lot on North Glachetsky. It's the lot just east of the community mental health. Years ago, the city had entered into a purchase agreement with community mental health to sell that property, and they improved a parking lot. Years later, it was determined that they never finalized the purchase, and so the city retained ownership of that lot, of the lot itself, plus the improved 100 by 100 foot parking lot. The party that is interested would like to purchase the entire lot, including that parking lot. The city has used that lot as a recycling center in the past, and this year when we relocated it to MCC with the joint effort of the Catholic schools, the Public Works Department converted it into cold storage and freed up a lot of space and made the lot at the Public Works Garage safer. The city manager brought this before City Council last Tuesday at their regular meeting, and City Council voted in favor of selling this lot. The proceeds would cover the acreage value of the lot, which is $10,000 per acre for the 2.5 acres, but also would include $27,000 in addition to relocate that existing improvement. And we have looked at the triangular piece of property located along Veterans Oak Grove Drive. It is currently, there's a oil well or gas well that sits on that site and is still currently in production. The city has used it to allow staging of materials and for contractors to use it for staging materials for at least 30 years that I've been involved with the city. And so we are looking to, or we are hoping that we can relocate our cold storage area to that location and continue to use it for storage, storing of materials outside. There's a potential that if the the cooperative agreement with the Catholic schools for the recycling center changes in some way, the city may also reconsider that as part of the recycling center. So we would want to keep that in mind as part of this request. In reviewing with Mike, he indicated that it is not zoned for outdoor storage because it's commercial. I believe it's C3. Is that correct?
That section is C1.
C1. However, outdoor storage is allowed if it's considered an essential service. Am I correct with that, Mike?
Yeah, so they have a memo that I've included in their packet that
Okay.
outlines what essential services is, as well as a definition. With moving forward with this, I just wanted Jeff to give a kind of an overview, and then you know, you have that memo in front of you that kind of outlines what your abilities are with this. If it's for services and utility needed for health, safety, and general welfare of the community, such as underground, surface, or overhead electrical, gas, telephone, stream, water, sewage, or other utilities and equipment and apparatuses necessary for such systems to furnish or adequate level of the services of the city, you're allowed to approve it. And it's the Planning Commission shall have the power to permit the use of lands and the erection of the use of buildings and facilities for an essential service in any district. And the Planning Commission may further authorize buildings in connection with essential services to be constructed to a height of a building greater than permitted in a district upon finding that such a use, height, and area is responsible, necessary for public convenience and service. So it gives and outlines the Planning Commission's ability to grant this for the DPW, and this is exactly what the essential services section is and was made for, is to approve these kind of services for the city in areas that would otherwise not allow it.
Okay. All right. Any other information you want to pass on, Jeff, to the commissioners?
Yeah, just one point. Councilwoman Beaton asked the same question, so I will let you know that our intention is to build a berm along the right-of-way of Veterans Oak Grove to allow for some screening of that, which will improve the look of it, even for what it is today. If you drive down that road today, you see the construction storage. We're actually storing concrete and crushing that into road gravel for the north side project. But there's an oil well site on it, like I mentioned, and then it backs up on the east side to a railroad yard. So I believe that screening will help the aesthetics of it and not make it sightly coming in from that road.
You're building the berm. Where are you gonna get all the fill from, Jeff?
Well, we get them off of our construction projects quite often, and they continuously look for locations. When we build the parking lot, we'll remove some of the surface material and we'll use that for the berm. And then I'll add to it as we pull materials out of projects that we're using, construction projects, even sand from the beach. We're always looking for a place to put that, and that would be a good haul. And then we would top dress it with composted topsoil that is made from our leaf pickup and our yard waste bag pickup.
Okay. Good.
Jeff, I think I drove by there this morning. Is that the one that's got all of the broken asphalt and concrete out there in front of that derrick? Is that the same
Yes.
one? Okay.
Yeah, and so that concrete came off of construction projects this summer, and the contractor's crushing that into road gravel and placing it back on the streets so that it's reused material.
Okay.
So, Mr. Whitliff, do you need a motion on this?
Well, I do have some questions, Mike, so.
Okay.
The berm is gonna be along Veterans Drive. Where is the driveway gonna be?
I would intend on keeping the driveway in the same location.
Okay.
It hasn't created any conflicts in the past, and it's a straight shot into the oil well site.
All right.
Okay, so right straight across from the Mr. Shrink Drive, you're gonna come through, right?
Yeah, in the same location that it's existing.
Okay.
And it's 100 by 100 again?
The lot that we have today is 100 by 100. So my goal is to create 100 by 100 paved, fenced in, and gated lot. And then we will also have some gravel lot that's outside of that in addition to that footprint.
Okay. Is the drive going to be paved?
Honestly, it depends on how good of a job I can negotiate on. When I gave the estimate to the city manager, it included having a contractor come in and build this from scratch. Because we've got the contractor that's operating there right now, they are actually going to have excess gravel, and I should have a price by Tuesday on what they would charge us for that excess gravel. So I'm hoping that the prices come in pretty favorable, and we can. I mean, I would love to be able to pave the driveway into that, but I'm not sure that that's going to be achievable.
Okay. Are you gonna, with that fenced in area, Jeff, are you gonna be using the old fence from the current location?
I'm going to make the efforts to do that to try to save as much money as we can. I'm pretty confident we could reuse the old fencing and probably just have to pay for the installation of new posts.
Okay. You know, that has the slats in it, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay. And those will be used, correct?
Yes.
As soon as possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you planning on bringing the cameras over that you have there now?
Well, there's not electricity there right now at that triangle site. There's not a service to it. Obviously, there's electricity to the oil well. We don't monitor the cameras because it's locked in when it's used for cold storage.
Mhm.
If we were required to convert that back to a recycling center, then yes, I would have to install overhead lighting and reinstall those cameras. So we'll remove the cameras and all the equipment there, and that'll be reused in the city. You know, that won't be a part of the sale to the company buying it.
Okay. Question for Mike. And because this is going to be a lone stroke out in the dark.
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time. Marlene, we're getting a lot of feedback off of your mic. I don't know if you have the ability to mute it, but if you don't mind. I just hate to mute you and then you not be able to talk again, or else I would have done so already.
Thank you, Mike. Is it can that area have barbed wire on top just to keep the riffraff out? Is that legal?
Is what? I'm sorry?
Is it legal to put a row of barbed wire up on top of the fence?
So not in the C1 district. That's usually the general industrial district that allows barbed wire. However, you guys can approve that as part of the essential services if you file it was a requirement.
Well, just, you know, this is probably a good question for Jeff. Jeff, do you feel that's necessary?
Marlene, I'm gonna mute you, okay? I can't unmute you. I'm sorry. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it would not be in my intention. Most of the stuff that we store in there is larger equipment. We certainly would secure it with gates and locks. And since we've been using it this past spring and summer, the current site, we haven't had any issues whatsoever. And in fact, we've had all that material stored inside the public works yard for a number of years, and I'm not aware of any theft issues from that as well.
All right. I'm just wondering what the commission feels about that. I want to ask that question.
I don't have any issue with it. And it's not paved now and never has been, right, Jeff?
Well, the current site we have is paved.
Okay.
but the lot that we're moving to, the driveway has never been paved. We would pave the lot itself and extend as much of the driveway as I can, as we can afford to do.
Okay, so that'd be what we're saying. You're gonna at least start with a gravel drive in there and possibly, if funds are there, you'll improve it.
That's correct.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that once that berm is in place, it'll actually improve the general look to that particular piece of property going out of town.
Okay. How high is the berm, Jeff?
I'm envisioning in the 6 to 8 foot area,
Okay.
and we would slope it so that we can mow it and maintain it.
Okay. All right.
How far back are you gonna put the berm in there, Jeff?
Well, we're gonna have the property surveyed, so it's kind of interesting that the road was built, I believe, on a former railroad right of way, and
Yeah, that was
there's
there
not
before.
actual right of way there. The lot is actually kind of part of the roadway's part of that lot. So we'll stake what would be the 66-foot right of way, and then make sure that we maintain the drainage ditches that are there, and then build it inland from that point.
Yeah, the thing I'm concerned with a little bit, if you put it a little farther back, give the traffic a little more room to see the deer coming over the top of that berm. Because that I see deer there almost every day.
Yeah.
I actually hit one there.
So we
Yeah,
gotta think
I've
about
come
just the
close to hitting
visibility
one.
on the road for the driving public, how far you move back.
Well, if we start maintaining that, that certainly will, because it doesn't get cut right now.
Yeah.
So maintaining that will certainly help that visibility.
All right. Any other questions? None? Mick?
Nope, no questions other than, do we need a motion? I'm just curious if we're looking for a motion at this point.
I believe we do need a motion. Is that correct, Mike?
I think it's appropriate because then it makes it formal. I'm gonna try to move Marlene back and forth because I can't get her to unmute, which I was afraid of, but it was getting very difficult to conduct the meeting just to make sure she doesn't have anything. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Well, I would make a motion that we allow the essential services for zoning in the Veterans Oak Grove Drive section as submitted and pictured with the proposal for the berm and fencing and the 100 by 100 foot parking lot.
I'll second.
I got one question on that. Jeff, do you think you may need a larger lot somewhere down the line?
Certainly we wouldn't for the cold storage. We would have to increase the amount of uses on that.
Okay.
They'd have to be multiple uses. So, Mike, I don't know if in your memo, I had what I had submitted to Mike was just 100 by 100 square on the site, just so you could kind of see the proportion.
They
of
do
how
have
much
the maps,
land.
Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you can see the proportion of the size of 100 by 100 compared to the overall size of the property. So there's a lot of additional property that's there. And someday when that oil well is removed, then that'll free up a lot of space as well.
So if you're gonna need more space later on for more storage, you'll have the room available to go with it.
Yeah, I would expect that. Yes.
You can probably head kind of south on that, Jeff. I would assume.
Yeah, and I may move that a little bit closer to the current driveway. If I can get close with being able to pave the driveway and not have to go to the farther or most further to the north, I may consider moving that. But I kind of wanted to tuck it in the corner. The north line or the north triangle of that triangle piece is wooded and provides natural screening. I thought the berm would then enhance that. And so I'm trying to tuck it in there so it doesn't create any eyesore.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? We've had a motion by Mick and a second by Shelley. Any other discussion on this? None? Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Samansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner.
Yes.
Can you unmute?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Jeez. Marlene, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but I'm trying.
There she goes.
There she goes. She can do it.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Motion approved. Thank you.
Marlene, if you could just mute yourself and unmute yourself when you want to speak, it would help the meeting to move along a little bit, if you don't mind.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm going to leave the meeting unless anybody has any other questions for me.
Any other questions for Mr. McCullough? None? Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second is the Tabernacle Special Use Permit Extension Request.
All right, Marlene, I'm going to mute you up again. Hold on a second. All right. All right, the Tabernacle is requesting an extension of their SUP for their parking lot until sometime in late spring to 2021. This is due to the increased construction costs associated with concrete and construction and COVID-19 related increases. In the last couple of months, they've seen and are reporting an increase of up to 30% in construction costs. I've heard that from many different people as well. They're pushing projects off until the springtime for the simple fact that lumber, concrete, all that is jumped up dramatically. Due to these unforeseen costs, they're requesting an extension of their SUP. One thing is we're recommending that you guys approve this. If you do, that you approve it with the extension that the Tabernacle is given their final extension on this without having to come back in for another extension or amendment to some kind. This project's been going on for about 2 to 3 years, a little bit before my time. And with setting the hard deadline, we hope to incentivize the applicant to finish the project. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt Stevens for questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Matt Stevens here, Tabernacle Board. We've only been able to get one vendor that can complete the project by the November 15th deadline. We'd really like to get we've got a couple other vendors that would like to bid on it. We feel like if we can do that, that's going to help us. We're going to need a little more time to put it together. Our parking requirement's pretty light right now with COVID, so we're not having an issue in the interim. So would ask you to consider giving us until the 1st of June. I think that would be sufficient.
Okay.
This is one of the ones that we just extended last month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay. What are the feelings of the commission?
I think it's reasonable.
I've been seeing a lot of problems with contractors trying to line them up. And I'm talking to people and they're telling me January and February is before the first they can actually do anything. So they're still playing catch up majorly. So I see the problems coming on that right now.
Yeah, I'm having my own personal issues, so I'm familiar with the delays.
So Bob, you're okay with extension?
Oh yeah.
To the 1st of June, correct?
I'm fine with that. If Matt, would that be work for Matt pretty good?
1st of July would maybe be a little better, but I mean, if we have, I anticipate having having a vendor selected and if they can hit the ground early enough in the spring, I mean, either way.
I think that since he had requested late spring, I'm comfortable that if we're going to put a deadline on it as a final extension, to give them until August 1st. I think it's reasonable to do that because what you're going to see, we haven't slowed down here at the planning department with work. People are still building. There's a lot of we all know there's a lack of available people in the area that can do this kind of work. I want to give them a decent amount of time because there's going to be an initial surge in the springtime. I think he might have his vendors lined up, but they might tell him that they can't get to it till June 1st, and that's his deadline. So if we're going to set a hard deadline, I think August 1st would be appropriate. I know they didn't request that. I put in what they requested initially, but I think it's more appropriate if we're going to put a hard deadline.
Yeah, and we don't know what we're going to have for a winter this year for delaying construction projects either.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And that was Pam, correct?
No, that was Shelley.
That was Shelley.
Okay.
No, but
Mick, how do you feel about that?
No, I agree. I think if we're going to have a hard deadline, we need to make sure that it is reasonable and achievable. And I would think that 1 August is fair and equitable.
Okay, good.
yeah, I agree too. I think August 1st is good.
Marlene? Pam just said okay.
Yep.
Okay, and Marlene, she's muted.
Yeah, trying to get her to unmute.
Shake your head, Marlene.
There she is.
Yes.
What are your feelings on that, Marlene?
I have no problem. I think by August, that should be adequate time to complete everything.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, I would like a motion.
I'll make the motion, we allow the extension.
Bob, till August 1st.
I'll second it.
Second by Marlene. Any other discussion?
That's with the understanding that this is the last extension, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Any other comments? None? Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Szymanski,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Fry,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Thank you. The extension's been granted and will expire on August 1st. So good luck with that and getting your contractors in line.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's reasonable. And I think this project we're all going to be very happy with it when we get done. So.
Well, you've done a fantastic job with the old building, with the old Glen of Michigan. It really looks nice. Just one last step for you. So
thank you.
Next one is the 50 Arthur Street special use permit transfer.
All right, so I'm going to ask Robert and Robert Hines to both Roberts here to unmute, and I'm just going to give you a little background information and turn it over to them. Okay, so I reached out to 50 Arthur Street a while back for an update on their progress. It was at this time I found out that the property had switched hands to another LLC, or the SUP had somehow been transferred in one way or another, and there was a misunderstanding on that. And the new owners were under the impression that the SUP traveled with the land. As such, they did not need to transfer the SUP. I explained to them that the SUP worked and it did not travel with the land until a time where the original requirements of the SUP were completed and inspected. I instructed them that they needed to contact the original SUP holder and get him to agree to transfer the SUP. They currently have the property and we have documentation to back that up. They've also sent me over a notarized copy from the original special use permit holder that says he agrees to transfer the SUP upon Planning Commission approval. So I have received that communication that I was lacking in your memo. and they are available for questions.
All right. Mr. Hines?
Yes, I am the one constant in this, by the way, Robert Hines, 4644 Fox Farm, and obviously I own 50 Arthur as well. I am the one constant that has been in this progress. We switched over applicants for the SUP because they didn't follow through on what they were supposed to. So we then switched it over. We switched it over to RMTC, which is another group that I'm a part of, and we've already started construction and we're on our way. So as far as and as far as the wording goes, the wording is upon approval, only because that's what I thought I had to put in there. Bradley Clintworth, the person that is transferring it to us, is going to transfer us at any time. We've bought the building and we're looking forward to operate. And also we're already under construction. We have our electrical that's underway, and plumbing, and we'll have walls up and should be completed within the next 90 days.
And Mr. Hines was part of the original team that had come forward before you guys seeking approval. He was part of the original purchase. He just was not the applicant that signed the special use permit. And so there was a little bit of confusion in there. And, with them moving forward with the plans on this, and I've been in contact with their builder, I think that they're capable of meeting the requirements of the SUP that was originally issued.
Thank you.
Mr. Hines, when you were kind of garbled there. When would you finish this by, roughly?
We're looking about 90 days out. That I want to give a conservative estimate, but that's the conservative estimate. Is where we should be done in 90 days.
Probably January 2021.
Definitely by January 2021.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners?
No.
The only question, so the plan that was submitted is the same plan that you're going to be carrying forward. It's just that basically one of your partner operations has changed. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I know I've been in contact with you. One portion of this is that we do have to inspect the properties. They're willing to let us in to do that. I just wanted to, we've made, arrangements. They asked to give me, or they were willing to do it right away. And I said, well, let's get some framing up so I have something to kind of inspect your progress here. You guys gutted it, but looking at an empty building isn't as good as some framing that's up to see their progress. So that would also satisfy their moving forward with the project at 1 year expiration. If they weren't, that would also satisfy that. So the permit's actually good for 2 years per your guys's granting, but they have to still show progress within a year. I've reached out to several of the other ones requesting updates. We still are within that 90-day window, but they responded, and that's when we found out this issue. But they've been really good about responses and getting things done in a timely manner. So.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mike.
If I could just chime in too, this is Robert McCurran. I'm one of the co-owners of the operational business as well as the real estate with Rob Hines, and completely agree with everything he said. Really just a slight confusion issue on our part about the process to apply for the special use permit. We had really intended to be open at this point. We're significantly slowed down for a number of reasons because of COVID, but now have everything in place. And as Mike said, we'll have walls going up. I think studs are up now, drywall's going up quickly. Roof and electrical work is well underway. We've also done a fair amount of work with the property, as well as closely with our neighbors and talk with them about the issues, and I'm really looking forward to working with the community to move the project forward. So with that, I'll
Let little garbled, but I think we got the gist of it.
we got it.
We all get the yes.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Bob, you have anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Pam?
I'm good.
Okay. Shelley?
I'm good.
Nick?
I'm good.
Okay. Marlene?
I'm good.
Okay. I don't think I missed anybody. Mark, you don't have any either, so I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve the sub transfer for 50
Okay.
Arthur Street.
All right.
I'll
And
second.
Pardon?
I'll second.
Shelley?
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Mick, second by Shelley. Please take roll.
Commissioner Slawinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Samansky,
Yes.
Commissioner Memberto,
Yes.
Commissioner Reinhardt,
Yes.
Commissioner McBride,
Yes.
Chair Whitliff.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. The next one,
Thank you very much.
This is an add to the agenda. Alyssa Lasky, parcel split.
All right, let me give you a little background here. Mrs. Lasky's new to our Manistee here. She is returning and coming back. When she came onto her property, she did a survey, found out that some of her shed was within the setbacks, creating a nonconformity. She wanted to correct that. Went to the city, filled out the split form. I mean, there's a little more background to that, but that's the gist of it. Worked through it, and now per the split request form, she has to appear before the planning commission and get your guys' approval or recommendation. Actually, it's a recommendation to city council to move forward with the split. I've looked at the split, and it was part of the email I sent you guys earlier today that showed that the split will correct that non-conforming portion of her property, and it will move it forward to a city council for review, and they have to approve it on their end as well. But we're satisfying our portion of that, so Mrs. Lasky can do that lot line adjustment to make her property conforming.
Is Mrs. Lasky here? Miss Lasky?
Yes.
I am.
Okay. Do you have anything to add? Well, welcome to our community, or welcome back.
Welcome back.
You probably
Thank you. Yeah, so I grew up in Manistee, graduated in 2006 from MHS. Went downstate for several years. I bought a home in Birmingham about 6 years ago, and maybe now I'm getting a little smart, realizing what's important in life, and decided it was time to be a little closer to family. Not have to have a big production in the car just to see my parents or my brother. My brother lives in Traverse City, and my parents live just down the street in the house I grew up in. Been here for a month, and it's been wonderful so far. So I'm really glad to be back.
Well, welcome home.
Thank you.
Commissioners have any questions?
What does the neighbor think about the split decision?
She was in favor of it. She
Very much in favor.
Yeah, had to basically agree to it, and then moving forward with that, they would have to also get it recorded with deeds as well that they've done this. So it wouldn't just be they actually have to have some kind of purchase agreement as well, so that they have to record. So they would have to obviously agree at that point as well.
From the surveying standpoint, we couldn't make a drawing of that, like something like that, unless we had a property line agreement between the two landowners. Otherwise, Pat wouldn't have been able to survey it that way.
That's right. They're very much in favor, very supportive, and in fact appreciative, because it's kind of cleaning everything up
Oh, that's good.
Non-conformities that have existed for years. We're just kind of fixing it.
That's good. It's good to have good neighbors.
For sure. For sure.
Okay. So any other questions by the commission?
None.
So we would just have a recommendation, a straw poll, basically, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate, and then I'll just draft a memo. I plan on drafting memos to every decision we made tonight and just sending them out to the applicants, and I would send that to Mrs. Lasky as well as Kelly at the city there, and just get her on the agenda to get this moving forward. And then from that point on, it's kind of the city staff's responsibility to help her follow through with it.
Okay. So with that said, what are the feelings of the commission?
I'd like to make the motion that we recommend it to the city to approve it based on the survey provided by the Spicer Group to approve the property split.
Okay. We don't need a second with that, Mike. It just kind of a straw poll. Mike?
I don't think so, because it's just a recommendation. So.
Okay. So what I'll do is run through everybody, and Mick?
I concur.
Okay, Marlene?
I'm in agreement with it.
Okay, Pam?
Yeah, I'm in agreement too.
Okay, Shelley?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. And I will also agree. And again, welcome back to Manistee.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Alyssa, I will draft that memo up. I'll send you a copy, and I'll be sending it over to the city to get you on the agenda for their next scheduled city meeting.
Yahoo.
Then
Thank you.
I'll be handing you off after that. So good luck.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, that completes the new business, and we will move into old business, zoning ordinance design guidelines.
So I'll grab Rob here and let him speak on this. They were supposed to be in the memo.
There's a memo. I will share my screen.
There you go.
I can, let me see here.
But they were supposed to be in your packet, and it's somehow my fault they got left out. I apologize for that.
Mike.
That's not how I do it.
It's at the bottom green button there, Rob.
Oh yeah, there it is. Multiple.
It should be just that share screen. I might run over and try to give you a hand if you can't get it. Oh, you got it.
There you go.
So I prepared a memo based on the conversations we've been having regarding design guidelines due to the placement of the home on Bryant Avenue that is rotated 90 degrees to the roadway from where the front door is. And then also based on the application we received for a dwelling in pretty much in a pole barn style structure that is, Mike, you have to remind me where that was at.
9th Street.
On 9th Avenue.
Okay, yeah, 9th.
Or 9th Street, I'm sorry.
9th Street, yeah.
I apologize.
We had some conversation, obviously, amongst planning commission members, at least one member of city council, discussion with the city attorney as well as the city manager, and requesting that we look at the, I went ahead and did some investigation up and down. I figured I would just go up and down the lake shore and look at some different zoning ordinances. And I found development guideline examples in Frankfurt for specific to residential districts and dwellings.
Rob, can you full screen that?
If you click on it, it'll full screen as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's, if I go any more than this, you guys, my screen is very large. So it's just going to,
it's pretty tiny on ours.
Yeah. You might want to go like 125, Rob, just so they can read it.
Here, what, 200? Can you see that?
There you go. That's good.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
I mean, I'm not going to go slow enough for anybody to read this. I wanted it in the packet because this is what it is. You know, we're not going to sit and read this right now. I apologize, but I pulled Frankfurt and I pulled Holland, Michigan. they had a range of guidelines. Hollands are basically called infill development, which I appreciate that term. It really refers to the infill of vacant lots or where homes are demoed or lost due to fire or some other issue, and the replacement of those structures to maintain the character of the existing neighborhood. The codes for Holland kind of rely upon the existing structure of the neighborhood, and it's kind of almost a form-based to a point. The Frankfurt guidelines here are more along the lines of just standardized guidelines for wall length, pitches of roof, the fact that you see here like dwellings without basements, standard specifications for crawl spaces and support structure. It speaks to porches and steps. So I think there's some good information here that you can review, and then from there, I think we pick out what the planning commission members like and dislike about the two ordinances. I can look into a few more if you want. I looked at Grand Haven. Theirs wasn't as soundly written as either Frankfurt or Holland's. Ludington does not have any dwelling standards for residential districts at this time. I looked at Pentwater. They did not have anything either. Muskegon is a little bit different than both the Frankfurt and Holland examples. It's more of very simple residential standards that basically, say that a front door has to face a roadway sort of thing. So you can see like Holland's here is like height, scale, and proportion. It really is like a more of a form-based code, which allows a little more flexibility for both the zoning administrator as well as the individual who is building the structure. And that may be, in my opinion, probably the right way to go, rather than having very stringent, this many feet in length, this much height, when everything could look exactly cookie cutter if we go that way. So I think it'd be a little bit better to look at form-based. But what we'll do is I will go ahead and email this to you, and then we'll prepare printed copies and send it out to you so you can look at it. And I would say we place this on the agenda again next month. And let's go ahead and give staff some direction at the next month meeting. And from there, we can start actually shaping how the ordinance language can look for the city of Manistee. If everybody's comfortable with that.
And I will add it to the packets on the agenda on the city website so that the public can review it as well.
Rob?
Yes.
Could I suggest also that you put in your recommendations as the subject matter expert on what you think is the most appropriate processes and where you think we would want to deviate? I know one of the things that we discussed was materials and door placement and things like that. So if you could kind of reiterate what we've already discussed, so that we have a stronger starting point than just two other communities.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. That's, that was kind of my proposal for next month's meeting anyways. I was going to have you review this and we talk about it, and then I'd go ahead and start to draft something. So yeah, I can prepare that. No problem.
How far did you extend that? Hey, Rob, on your research, how far up and down the lakeshore did you go?
I went as far north as Frankfurt. I did not look at Leland. I didn't look at Traverse City. I didn't look at Petoskey. I went down to South Haven.
Okay, and I just wonder if any of those up north would be
Yeah,
worth
I was trying
looking
to look at, so in comparing Manistee to other communities, we can look north, but we're not Traverse. We're an industrial community, and we're much more comparison to Ludington, Muskegon in a way, and then Holland. Holland was an old school industrial community as well. I was raised there, and it used to be.
How about Rogers City? Rogers City seems to be almost a comparable city.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Rob, how about like Whitehall, White Lake area? I mean,
Yeah, I'll look. I can't say if they have them or not. I can find it pretty easily in their zoning if they do though.
Okay.
I'll take a look
Could
at
I
it.
ask a completely contrary question? Because I haven't seen the house on Bryant Street, but does it make a difference if the front door faces the road? What's the difference?
Well, okay, so the way
You
A
need
lot
to
of
go
people
see the
don't even
house on
use their
Bryant
front doors.
Street.
I guess it really doesn't matter, but we've been receiving complaints from the neighbors.
Really?
So, yes. So, and I think really what the issue is the front door faces someone's back deck because the house is rotated sideways. So I imagine actually if you were to be sitting on your back deck and it's dusk out or it's nighttime and they have their lights on in their house, you're going to be looking right into their living room from their back deck.
Okay.
And this is something we had talked about I think like 3 or 4 months ago, and the decision at that time was let's not move any further. And then we got a second application for that dwelling in a pole barn. And I mean, no one said anything yet because it's not built, but they're doing activity on the site. We heard from the neighbor about activity on the site and making sure they had permits and stuff. But I've got a feeling once that red pole barn pops up in that neighborhood, my phone's going to ring, Mike's phone's going to ring. And
We're going to be hearing about that one.
Yes,
so, and it's a lot of this has to do with seasonal residents. This is or vacationers. It's not some of these. I mean, the home on Bryant's different. Yes, that's someone's permanent home. Yeah. But like this pole barn is someone who wants to keep a fishing boat here.
Yeah.
And wants sleeping quarters in it, but really wants to use it as a garage more than anything. So they don't want to build a full residential style. I should say styles.
Yep.
Well, we don't know that.
I'm not saying that that's inappropriate for Manistee County, but maybe for the R1, R2 districts in the city of Manistee, that really may not be appropriate. If you have 2 acres outside of the city in Filer Township or Manistee Township, or you have a little more land, then that seems a little more appropriate.
Okay. Just curious.
Thank you, Rob.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we'll have more for that for you next month. I'll put it in the packet so the community can review it as well. And that will be out there because I failed to add it there. Sorry, I had a really, really bad week. So
last week was nightmarish.
So moving on, I guess. So I'll get that out to you guys and I'll put it on the website as well.
Okay. So the next is the fee for special use permit transfer and amendments.
Okay, so we had pushed forth for in the future major amendments to a special use being $500 at a minimum, and then minor amendments or transfers of SUPs being $200 and a minimum on the side of that. The city came back and asked about what the minimum was on that. Basically said it was on your original one, but what it basically means is if you exceed that and we have to go outside for expert advice or whatever, the city's not covering that cost. That will be added into your application fee, so the city doesn't have to come out of pocket for a special use that you're requesting, unless they choose to do so. It's just kind of a catch-all in case we start spewing money on experts that we have to look into for the city. We sent it up there. That was their only questions. They've agreed to what we've proposed. I believe they're going to approve it and add it to their fee. So I just want to give you guys an update on that. This is the memo in your packet that I sent to Ed, and at city staff meeting, that was the only comments they had, and we talked about it briefly, and then we went right through it. So.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners?
None.
No.
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 Okay. All right. Short-term rentals, Village of Pentwater, City of Huntington fee schedules, ordinance guidelines, and MSC STR case.
All right, so I'm gonna just this is kind of going to turn over to you guys for discussion. I'm just going to touch on these briefly, and it's really for you to outline here. But I've read over the Ludington short-term rental ordinance that they've passed. While I don't agree with all of it, and I don't know if all of it's appropriate for us, it is a very well-written ordinance. There's been a lot of thought into it, I think. And from, speaking with that planner down there, I think it's a really good baseline for us to build off of. There's certain things in there that I would like to iron out. If this is something that you guys would like, I'm just going to touch on some of the points that I liked. And I know you guys have mentioned things in the past, or you've presented things to me that you would like to see. Their short-term rentals, they classified them as 28 days or less. That's to cover all the months, so a month basically or less. And I like that. In their determinations of the following, they identified some of the same problems that we're facing, such as letter number D, the city suffers from a shortage of affordable housing for permanent residents of the city as documented in the city's master plan. Residential target market analysis dated July 1st, 2015. It's prepared for Mason County and Michigan State Housing Development Authority. They touch on commercial and recreational activities associated with short-term rentals are frequently incompatible with residential uses and often constitute a public nuisance. The shortage of affordable housing directly affects economic well-being of the city and its residents because major employers in the city and surrounding areas are unable to attract workers to the city. These are common themes that we're seeing up and down the coastline. They're not, this is not just Ludington that are seeing these. We've touched on many of these with Housing North has come in and touched on many of these. So I thought that they did a good job of explaining that up front. Moving through it, their definitions look pretty good. The one thing I don't particularly, I want a little bit more of a definition for is their max number of people, but they actually call it maximum. Hold on one second. I apologize. I'm looking through my notes.
Occupancy.
Yeah, maximum occupancy. I think that should be defined a little bit more. They let the state set that guideline, and the fire code inspector. I would like to reach out to the building inspector and the fire marshal to find out what that would look like, and bring that back to you. So I plan on reaching out to them and touching base on them. But that, if it's appropriate, by all means, I definitely recommend it. But I would like to know what that looks like and not just kind of, I realize that they state that later on in there, but I would like that in the definition as well. So people up front know what that is. Then they also have 2 short-term rentals per city block right-of-way street segment. And that's to help get rid of dark neighborhoods or areas where when we're in the off season, these short-term rentals aren't in that that pristine 120 days that we've discussed where people are coming in for the tourist time. And these properties typically end up vacant, or they do sometimes get rented in our community, at least, to residents. And then when it comes up for the short-term rental season, they've also seen that where they're pushed out into the, they push out the residents in turn for short-term because they can make a more monetary benefit off of those short-term rentals than they can for the long terms, which then causes a crisis in our community where, we discussed before, where everybody's scrambling to find a place to live. They touch on licensing fees and restrictions on basically if you apply for it within the application fee, they consider that part of your licensing fee. My recommendation is if we were to adopt something like this, that for the first, they did a lottery type system. If we were to have applicants come in for that lottery type system, that the city is going to have staff put time towards that, whatever fees that you guys decide. If we did accept something like a lottery system to decide who would get short-term rentals, if we limited them, then I say the city keeps that fee. We don't apply it to the licensing. It is your entry into the lottery system.
That's a good idea.
The there's a portion of here where they talk about the licensing, and I wrote a note here of how are they issuing them out. They touch about that a little bit later, but the other part is they limited theirs to 30 short-term rentals, and I've seen from some of you that 50 is a number that is being tossed around. I know when we checked last year, we were well into the 150. I spoke with a council member recently who went to a host compliance training. I've spoken about host compliance for enforcement. They actually pulled up Manistee. My data from the presentation that I provided you guys was from 2016 until 2018, which saw, I believe it was and if I remember correctly, 197% increase. I'm guessing because it was about 6 months ago that I gave that. Well, I didn't give it, Kyle did, but I put it together. But we gave that presentation. It might have been 237. I couldn't remember, but a percent increase in the city. Last year, they saw a 63% increase from the year before of short-term rentals within the city of Manistee. So, I mean, that you have to take into account that those 3 years, or 16, 17, 18, we've seen that 197 or 237. I can't remember the exact numbers on it. I'd have to pull up the presentation, and then just last year, a 63% increase on top of that. So they're rapidly expanding. Ludington talks about this. This isn't exclusive to our area. It's not exclusive to, Northwestern Michigan. It is a problem in any tourist destination. They talk about another issue in here is, a lot of these within Ludington, we'd actually have to, if you guys want to use this as a baseline, it's the check with George to make sure that a lot of these are matching up with our ordinances. They talk about parking and just like that. So that's something that we'd want to, if we use this as a baseline, to go ahead and do. We had talked about the violation fees on these and making them to where if you get hit by a violation, it kind of dents your pocketbook a little bit to where you don't want that. So you pick and choose your renters. And they have as their first violation a $250 fee, a second violation a $500 fee, and a third violation they revoke your license, and you're ineligible to reapply until you appeal it. I don't know what stance that you guys would like to take on that, but that's pretty common, like a 3 strikes you're out. I did not touch on the enforcement section of theirs because if we go with like a host compliance, which they chose not to by limiting their amount of applicants, they felt that they could handle it in-house. They also recognize that these are illegal uses within residential neighborhoods. They're not currently allowed, and they're just commercial uses. And then with that recent Michigan Supreme Court ruling that came down, that's also in your guys' packets, these aren't grandfathered in according to that ruling. So with that said, if you are looking to enforce it, which I believe you are, I think Ludington's is a pretty good baseline. Now it definitely needs to be tweaked to meet your guys' requirements, but there is a lot of thought into this ordinance, a lot of common practices and policies that you see in short-term resident or rental ordinances. I think it's a pretty good one. Now, with
Mike,
saying
can I
that,
ask you a question about their ordinance though?
yeah, go ahead.
When you spoke with their planner, what
Yes.
do they estimate the percentage of non-compliances? Because we know how rules and regulations and ordinances, and you've had this sort of cottage industry that's been out there for a very long time. A lot of people have put a lot of investment into it. Homeowners have. Homeowners use their second properties. And so in a lot of ways, it's not detracting from the inventory because they wouldn't be doing anything but not visiting during that time anyway. They're just making some money on their homes when they're not there. So I'm curious what they estimate their rate of non-compliance is, because I would assume that a lot of people are just going to continue operating and not really worry about the licensing process.
Yeah, I mean, they could get, I mean, she obviously doesn't know what that's going to look like. They limited it to 30 so they could handle it in-house.
Okay.
It's, I mean, that's really hard to say. I imagine it's going to be large at first, but if they crack down on it with any enforcement, it's a municipal civil infraction. You know, they can send their police department over there to deal with it, and write them tickets, you know, and then you basically go from there. Now, I'm not saying that there's not obviously economic advantages to having short-term rentals in your area as well. I mean, you definitely see increased tourism dollars spent in your community. You see some housing stock be revamped that might otherwise not do it. But the problem is it can also increase, you also see increased jobs within the, especially in the Ludington. One thing that they make is management companies for like realtors and stuff like that, which act as, so that's increased, you know, business that, you know, goes into the area where, you know, they have to have a management on, you know, posted and within like, you know, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there is increased jobs out there for that. You know, overall though, I feel that the negatives outweigh the positives for people who want to be here, not as a seasonal resident, but as a permanent resident. It creates nuisances. Not everybody signs up for it. It artificially inflates the housing market. There's a lot of things, and I'm not saying that there isn't economic, you know, prosperity that's brought in by these. You know, from a homeowner standpoint, it's even good because, you know, it does inflate the housing prices. But if you're a new person and you're a working class person, I hear constantly of how hard it is to find a house. And as somebody who moved back to the area, you know, I've ran into that. You know, young professionals run into that, you know, quite a bit, where there's not the housing stock isn't compatible with a lot of the other areas of the country where, you know, we have older housing stock, and, you know, it does need to be renovated. If you can't sit there and pick something up that then you can afford to fix up because it's artificially inflated by the short-term rental market. I'm not saying though that, yet again, that there's not economic benefits from having short-term rentals. I think there's definitely economic benefits, and it allows people to get that taste of Manistee that we all want them to get, and then encourage, you know, them to come back. I don't know if that number's 30. I don't know if it's 50. I don't know if it's 100. All I'm saying is there is definitely a problem with the amount of housing stock that's available to people, and rental market stock that's available to young professionals and professionals trying to move into the area. We've seen it in study after study. We had Housing North come in here and they said it too. They're saying it's simply, it's hard to have an affordable housing market here for these young professionals coming in, and you know, continue to lose it to short-term rentals that inflate the market. I mean, that's really what we're butting up against. I mean, I really, you know, do see the benefits of having it, but I also see the negatives. I mean, so I touched on that, and I gave you guys a task of tell me what you like about the short-term rental market, because in the end, it doesn't matter what I like. It doesn't matter what I want. It is completely your guys' decision on how you want to handle this. I'm just here to facilitate. Like I said, there's positives, there's negatives. I encourage, you people who would like to discuss this further or be on the agenda to contact me. I've reached out to some, reached out to some of the public that's here today and asked them, if you would like to be on the next agenda, we can get you in there so you're not just limited by the 3 minutes. I reached out to Housing North to see if they would be willing to come down here. And I plan on reaching out to the city planner in Ludington and asking her if she'd be willing to speak on it. I don't think it should only come from one source. I
agree.
I think
And
we can get other people in here.
I think there needs to be some voices, because I'll tell you, I moved to the community almost 12 years ago, and this was before we had an issue with short-term rentals, and I had a lot of problem finding a place even then, but it was for the same reasons that it is now. A lot of people, Manistee, they have a second home in, or their parents live there, or again, it's a second residence. So even if, sorry, there's a plane going over. So even if they weren't doing a long-term rental, that home is not available because they would be living there occasionally, or they'd be visiting every once in a while. Most of the people I know, in particular in Manistee, that operate Airbnb, VRBO, whatever it might be, do it either inside the home they live in. They rent out a room or, something very short term. They do them one night a week, or a weekend, whatever it might be. Because like you said, people wanted a taste of Manistee, which I think is good. I would love to see some builders start actually building affordable homes, but that hasn't happened yet. So I just don't, I have a very hard time limiting the choices that homeowners can make with their homes. I know that as a consumer, Airbnb is the first place I go to whenever I travel, and I travel pretty frequently. So those are the kinds of things I'm looking at. And I know working in the hospitality industry, we don't have enough hotel rooms, particularly in the summertime in Manistee. So if people want to come, I would love to see that availability. I understand too, as a homeowner, rentals of any kind can pose an issue, whether that be 28 days or less, or, the people that move in next door to you for a year or more. I don't necessarily, I would hate to influence in a decision or a discussion without people having tried it, without homeowners speaking about it, without people who are actually doing rentals talking about it. And I know we have at least a couple of those on the line right now, but I would like to hear more from them.
I personally agree, and we can, work sessions on Zoom are very difficult.
They are.
The other thing is, from another standpoint, we've been tasked by City Council to develop a short-term rental ordinance.
Yes.
And I feel like we're having this conversation a lot, where we do definitely want to bring more people in. It's been difficult and challenging with COVID. But we haven't even decided even remotely close to what we like or what we'd like to use as a baseline for moving forward with this. That's kind of what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, I know you're right about that. This is at least the second meeting where we've talked about it. So I'm going to put pen to paper, take apart the things that I like and that I don't like, and maybe that'll start a conversation. I'll put it out to the entire group. I know that we look to you for the guidance, so you've given us some great information, but yeah, we need to just start ironing out an ordinance.
So with a work session, could we do it at the Ramsdale? If,
the city has permission to, I will check. I don't want to respond and say yes or no on that. I know that that is a potential option. I just don't want to say yes or no on it without speaking to Xavier or the city manager and just, you know, putting that out there and saying, hey, because I know there's also issues with, we don't want to overuse that venue for the city, because it's, the contract's not really solid as far as like how often. So let me reach out to them if it is something that we would like to do with a work session and have people come in and present and have the public there. Let me reach out to the city manager and discuss that further. I'm hesitant to say yes or no on that without discussing with them.
You can't yet, but I think that's the only way to get enough views and get enough comments that we can all take in. So
I've got a.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm sorry. You know, as I look through this package, and in my view is that what we're suggesting is a codified ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so a codified ordinance is, we're only the beginning.
Right.
My view is that from a planning commission, we need to be looking at it from a planner's view, and not necessarily try to take in, you know, curing the whole beast. When we start talking about managing the number of something, that really falls into the ordinance process from the city and the city council. And I think they're going to be the ones that are going to have to dig in and make the difficult decisions. What I liked was the fact that we're managing what they look like, what the minimum expectation is for a renter coming into Manistee on a short-term basis, and having some, you know, management and control. Right now we have zero. And where it really became an issue was when we closed down our motels and our hotels, and people flocked to Manistee in the short-term rentals. And it was because we had no control, no management of that property. And so, you know, again, what I'm trying to say is I think there's a lot here from a planning side and a zoning that needs to be recommended. But if we spend a lot of time going in and having a lot of open meetings, it's only going to be replicated again. That's the only thing I'm getting at, is that the city isn't going to just take this, what we get. They're going to have to go through the same process with you know, public hearings and probably a working group.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think we give them the baseline and we tell them to move forward with it. I personally really like Ludington's. There's other aspects of it. I really think it's a strong ordinance as far as a short-term rental ordinance goes. The restrictions on there, I mean, there's things on there that you know, I think need to be adjusted for Manistee, but I think it's a good starting point. And if that's what they were looking from us, I think it's a good starting point moving forward for them to work off of.
Yeah.
Also, adding to what Mick said, excuse me. I completely agree with you, Mick. And I think it's not just codified. This is an amendment that should occur to the existing rental ordinance.
Correct.
And let's just put everything in one so we don't have two different ordinances. I want to say it was, I think it was Shelley that had brought up not treating really the short terms much different than the long terms. Maybe in terms of, you know, the fee structures, that sort of thing, because they are a little bit different, but not in terms of the inspection process and holding them accountable to the same type of standards that we would want for housing that's made available for more longer term permanent residents in the community.
Yeah, and we want to encourage the long-term residents or long-term rentals. So anything we can do in that aspect obviously helps with the overall housing issue that we have. And again, I'm sure the discussion of what the right number of short-term rentals is going to come up. I personally think 30 or 35 is probably the wrong number for Manistee. I think the short-term rentals have done a lot of good in town. And I would think that restricting it that far is probably not in the overall best interest. But again, there's, you know, lots of opinions on that. And I look at the numbers and I know that there's well over 160 that are currently in use and spotted right now on those charts that blip up. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I just looked it up and there were 199 in Manistee County available for 2 weekends from now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my thought is restrictions, you know, like, you know, how many on a block based on parking. You know, obviously, you know, again, those are things that I think Ludington has handled very well. And I like the
They have an
fact that
extremely, Ludington has extremely different parking ordinances than Manistee does.
Yeah,
they do.
They're very different.
Yep.
That's why I said we need to check with George to see how ours would apply with that.
Correct.
I like that they put it in there, but we might want to modify it based on you know, what the recommendations are. I also like, there's other restrictions that they've provided, you know, such as the issuing of the license itself, where they speak on how it's done. They've laid out a plan for applicants.
Mm-hmm.
They've laid out an appeal process. These are all things that I think when we're supposed to look at this, and I could be wrong, and I'll ask Mick here because you are the representation on the planning commission, but city council was more looking towards us for that kind of thing than maybe setting these standards. They wanted something to build off of. And that's how I interpreted it, but maybe I'm incorrect.
Well, I think they're looking for recommendations on standards as far as, you know, things like, you know, again, we have a, you know, zoning, you know, is going to be looking at the different districts and where we think that, you know, certain things should be allowed and certain things should be more restricted. You know, and again, maybe that's where some of the number work can come to play.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've looked at is, you know, we're doing a lot with the downtown area and trying to increase, you know, like the lower story dwelling, allowing for increased dwellings down there. You know, maybe an increased amount down there, or you know, a number higher, or an encouragement or something like that to get people, not only to get that taste of Manistee, but, you know, to revamp some of those buildings down there, get some investment in it, and then give people a proper taste, and, you know, give them the downtown, give them, you know, the best we have to offer, and making that available. Yeah, maybe there is something that needs to be looked at there. Some other concerns that have occurred because of the Michigan Supreme Court ruling and the way they've looked at it is, with building inspections, because these are commercial entities, are they held to commercial building inspection standards? So fire breaks between bedrooms, between floors. So
you're talking about big investments.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I would think that we would look at it more like a B&B.
Yeah.
You know, I think that our standards for a B&B should not be that different than what we would have as far as standards for the short-term rentals. And we address parking, we address all those issues when we talk about a B&B. I would kind of think that would be a good baseline for us to go forward with our recommendations. And not make it so, you know, it's impossible for somebody to actually have a short-term rental either.
I agree.
So,
I think that's a great idea.
So Mike and Mick, what are you looking for us to do tonight then? Commit to putting some language together?
So we didn't really know where personally, I didn't know where this is going. I wanted you guys to read it over, first of all, the two ordinance that we provided. And, you know, from reading them over, I was like, wow, I really lean towards the Ludington. I think that they've set policy and practices in there that you know, might not fit us, but we can work with. And if that's, I'm hesitant to not give, because there is some people that that are kind of late to the party, even though we've been kind of talking about this since November of last year, that, you know, I still want to give them that opportunity, but this is going to be a codified ordinance. It's not going to fall into zoning. And maybe our recommendation is to move forward with one of these ordinances as our baseline and give it to city council and their I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, the ordinance portion of it where they write it. I can think of the term, and I apologize. But we give it to them with our baseline and say, hey, and then we give them some recommendations. Now, those recommendations are the recommendations that I wanted you guys to come up with tonight, and then with the baseline of whichever ordinance that you wanted. And I have Mark's, and if Mark wants to talk on his, I'll let him. If you don't want to share it, I'll just push him up to in a memo to the.
What I'd like to have is everybody's mic, and then we can run through them and pick what fits.
Okay.
The thing I look at, well, what we should be trying to do is figure the ranges that we want to have the city work within. Say, okay, here's a minimum acceptable range. Here's a maximum acceptable range. We can pass that on to the city for them to make a final decision.
You know, again, my view is that the language dealing with the procedure criteria, short-term rental regulations, licensing responsibilities, violations, penalties, all of that is real solid in the Ludington proposal. And I would think that's probably 90% of what City Council is really looking for from us. The question that City Council is going to have is, you know, how are we going to do this? You know, how are we going to, you know, if we're going to, let's say we're going to have 100 or 150 licenses, how do we inspect them? Where do we get that inspection force? Are we going to contract out with this? And if so, then how does that amount to the fees?
Mick, I think you roll it into your inspection program for your long-term rentals. You just roll it into it.
Right.
And that's my recommendation to do that.
Yeah, but there's a cost associated with that. We have to make sure that our fees are not completely eaten up with the contract, that there isn't anything to support the planning side and the city side of administering and the process as well.
Well, and the benefit of having, you know, I don't want to say there should be a different set of rules, but there's a benefit to short-term rentals being reviewed on a regular basis by the public, and that's where capitalism comes in. So you don't get reviews on a renter site for a long-term rental. You can have some slumlord that can treat your building like garbage and every 3 years get a license based on doing just enough. The short-term rental business is very different. You know, they're looking to be a super host. They're looking to have the cleanest property around. They're looking for the best reviews on the internet. And I think that there's an inspection every weekend, literally.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I think that's a good point. I will say that from dealing with the city's building inspector, and I will say that he is a pretty great building inspector as far as it goes. I mean, you know, I've been working with him great. We've gotten some problems where some of these commercial long-term rentals or short-term rentals, they've gone into them and he's inspected them, and you know, he's finding issues with them. He's been really doing a great job at it, and I would like to just voice that first of all and say, like, if we did continue with the inspection program, I strongly recommend that we stick with who we got. The guy's by the book. He's going in and he's making people fix things that have never been fixed before, walking into buildings and pointing out the issues, and he doesn't care. He's by the book. I mean, it's great. It's great and it's refreshing. And I'm hoping that some of these issues get resolved. And you know, any kind of inspection program, rental inspection program, I think has to include the building inspector. If you look at Ludington's and the way they did it, it certainly is just like that. It's built into their inspection program, and the building inspector does it.
And that was a good list. That was a very comprehensive list that they gave to prospective. I would assume anyone interested, they got the checklist in advance of what the inspector was going to look for. And that was a very good, very comprehensive list.
I also think that what they did with the guide to city Ludington short-term rentals, devising something like that, that is really good for a prospect coming in like, hey, you want to do short-term rentals? Well, here's the standards laid out for you. You don't have to read the ordinance. I think that laying it out for anybody coming in to try or attempt to do this is great. I also recommend what they do. They do a 3-year rental there. With them all expiring at the same time, regardless of when you start, it really helps helps with the inventory of it and keeping track of it. So if it's something
like that.
If we did something in-house where you guys limited it for enforcement purposes, it's really important that they all expire at the same time, no matter when you signed up. Now, I don't know, because it didn't really say in there from what I read, but it doesn't, if I'm in the 3rd year and I apply, or, halfway through the year, do I get a rate deduction on my application? It doesn't really say that. Like if I come in on the last month, do I get a rate deduction on, before they expire all at once? It doesn't really outline that there. And I personally, I think that it probably should be broken down by a monthly basis. You shouldn't hit somebody on the last month and be like,
well, at least a quarterly basis.
It's
At
something.
least quarterly.
Prorated.
Prorated,
Prorated,
quarterly.
yes. I don't know what that is, and I don't think it's for me to decide that, but I just think that that's something that it does lack, is it doesn't talk about prorating it. So.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on this?
I mean, I think it's important that, we did task the planning commission members with outlining, what they like, what they don't like. I think we need to get that down, and then, think about pushing it forward to city council. And I know Pam's been awful quiet. I'm kind of interested to hear her weigh in. I know Marlene's been awful quiet, and I want to hear her weigh in too. So if either one of you want to join in, go ahead.
No, I was just letting everybody talk. I think everybody knows that I like the limiting the number that we have here in town, and I really do like the lottery system, because that way there's no favoritism whatsoever. If you get the license, then you got it fair and square. One of the things, I do like Ludington's a whole lot. I like the way it's laid out, and I agree with you, Mike, about a lot of it. The one thing that I do have a question about is, and Shelley touched on this very, very briefly, about rooms to rent in your house. Some communities don't allow that to happen. If you live in your home full time, you can't do that. And I'm just wondering if this ordinance is going to touch on that at all, as far as, renting out an extra bedroom during the summertime or not.
I think, I didn't see it in there where you couldn't.
Yeah.
But that's a recommendation that you guys can make either way. If somebody wants to rent out a room, I don't see, if short-term rentals are allowed, but if they're
Same
not,
criteria.
if you don't win a lottery, it wouldn't allow you to do it. That's the only thing. Like if you weren't one of the lottery holders, you wouldn't be able to rent that room.
Yeah, and that's why I was asking if that was something that was going to be touched on, because there are people in town who rent out rooms and stuff, and a lot of them are long term, but some of them just do it for a weekend or something.
Right. I think there should be exemptions in there. For one, I'm a big fan of exempting. So let's say you're closing on a house, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I really just need 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a short-term rental.
It is, technically it is, yes.
Yeah. So that would be exempted.
Yeah.
Or you've been running for 2 months or 6 months or 12 months, and you're like, okay, I've set aside my lease, I'm now month to month. That would be allowed.
Yes.
So once you satisfy something, I think there does need to be built-in exemptions.
Yeah.
And those are things that need to be touched on. But those can become recommendations that we bring forward with it, in some kind of motion that we make, You know, I know it's really difficult to get all of our ideas together, but, you know, compiling a list of these and then sending them forward is not a bad idea. I know Mark's, you know, putting that kind of there, but if I could get all your guys' ideas, at least emailed to me, I could at least draft the memo. But I think there does need to be exemptions in there for those types of activities, because those are pretty common.
Yeah.
You know, I have it all the time. I needed a couple of weeks to get out of my old house before I moved. You know, I understand that, you know, that would technically be illegal, but, you know, it should be an exempt aspect of that.
Yeah, it's just like somebody just getting a new job coming into town and they're still trying to find a place, but they have to be here for the work.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and it's happened with students that we have that come through the hospital where that, you know, they're doing a rotation up here for training and they just need a room to stay at. And as far as I know, we only have the one place that does like apartments like that.
Well, you'll see student teachers come in too.
Yeah, same thing. But yeah, I like a lot of what Ludington has to say. There's a few things that, so maybe what we should do is just like you said, just put them all down in writing and send them to you, and then you can collate them all.
I guess the first step is, out of these two ordinances that we've looked at, which one do we want to use as our baseline? I'm hearing Ludington over and over and over. But if that's, you know, if I can just get like a general feeling from the board that that's the one that we would like to go with, then we can kind of get the feelings out. Everybody can review it. I would like to give everybody the opportunity to come forward at least one more time and speak before we send it to city council. You know, and bring up any points and invite the public that, again, might be late to the game, you know, as far as this goes, and doesn't realize, you know, for whatever reason, that we were developing this. I would like to give them one more opportunity to speak to you if they would like to. And I encourage, yet again, I encourage anybody out there that might be wanting to be on the agenda to speak on these matters, to get a hold of us and we'll get you on the agenda. But, you know, after this, I think that's, you know, it's going to move forward to city council.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yep. And I would vote towards the Ludington as our baseline to review.
Something to build off of. I agree with Mick, using the Ludington as a baseline, so.
Yep, definitely.
All right.
No, some real good points.
Okay, so Bob and Shelley, you guys are in agreement, and Marlene?
Yep.
I agree with you structurally. I think they have a lot of restrictions that I don't necessarily agree with, but I can work that out in the list. So I think structure is fine.
Yeah.
That's mainly what I was going with, was the structure. Yep. Like I said,
fine with that.
Whatever restrictions that you guys, you know, we push up, you know, I don't know if that's going to be us. We'll have some recommendations, but I think it's really going to be city council that's going to work through those. Marlene, do you have anything to add? You've been real quiet.
So.
That's because you had her on mute the whole time.
I'm going to ask her to unmute. Marlene?
She's still muted, it looks like.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, I asked her to unmute, but I don't know if there she goes.
Am I back on?
You're back on, Marlene. You got anything?
Okay. I just wanted to add, I know a lot of people that have been looking for a rental home, and there is no such thing unless you want to rent from a slum landlord that you wouldn't even put a dog in. And there just is no decent rental homes. And I think a lot of these short terms are taking away from people trying to rent a decent property. And if all these long-term rentals are inspected by Spicer, I just don't see how they can meet code. And I'd just like to know what they go by. Would they go by the same standard for a better home, you know?
I can
and
answer
I didn't see what.
So the city recently went with a rental inspection company for whatever reason I won't get into, but the new gentleman who is doing it is from a company called Safe Built. His name's Steve Hagan, and I will say that he has pointed out many issues to me. We've discussed it, and these rental inspections are, he's making them make corrections where I don't think they've ever had to before.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I know one time, if you rent your house for a weekend or a week or even 2 weeks, you can no longer declare that as your personal home and get homestead tax relief on it. So that might be something you might want to check with the assessor too.
I can reach out to Molly on that as well.
Good point.
And I will do that for the next meeting.
All right,
So
and I didn't see what I didn't get the paperwork for Ludington, what they have for their rentals.
Did you not get your
But-
packet, Marlene?
That
I
was
got
actually,
part of a packet,
that was
but I
last
didn't
month's
get
packet.
It should have been in last
Yeah.
month's
Last
packet,
month.
Marlene.
Oh, okay. Then I got that.
Okay.
I thought there was something different you put in this time. All right, no, I agree. I like Ludington's plan, and I think if we use that as a guideline, that would work for us.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll use
All right.
Ludington as a baseline.
Yeah.
I will, I look forward to getting all your guys's, takeaways as far as what you like,
It's all right down there.
and I'll comprise them together, and then I'll bring them to the next meeting on October 1st. And after that, I'm hoping that we can move forward with passing it to City Council.
Okay,
Sounds
Great.
good.
sounds good. Okay. Moving along, sign ordinance.
It's just a holding point for us still right now.
Placeholder.
Yeah.
Okay. And now the amendments to the zoning ordinance master list.
Really, we just want to talk about the lower story dwelling one. The rest are on there kind of just to remind you that we have that list. If I reach out to Thad and them about a work session, maybe we can, look to move forward with some of these and get, maybe a public hearing in it too. Because, and I'll figure out how we can do that. We might have to call a special meeting instead of a work session, but, and then I can let Rob talk about the lower story dwelling in the language that was devised. And we did meet with the DDA and took some of their requirements or recommendations, actually, not requirements. And we did try to put them into the lower story dwelling language. So I'll turn it over to Rob.
Okay, as Mike had said, actually dating back, I want to say to January, February of this year, early this year, Mike and Kyle had met with the DDA and had some discussion regarding lower level dwelling standards, ground street level dwelling standards, and the information they received from the DDA at the time. There were some requirements in the zoning ordinance that spoke to accessory dwellings on ground floors in the on the River Street district and the DDA. Yeah, whatever number, I can't remember. We deal with way too many zoning ordinances. Codes are getting mixed together. But the standards that were in the zoning ordinance at the time actually did not permit the use. In order to have a use permitted, as I'm sure most of you are aware, that use has to be listed in an individual district as well as being within the use tables of the zoning district. Just because a standard is put into a general provisions does not make that use allowable. So what they did is basically put standards together for lower level or ground level accessory dwelling units in the business district, but they actually did not permit the use itself. So we went back to the DDA about 2 weeks ago, I think it was now, and met with them at their meeting on a Thursday morning, I believe it was, and received some comments from them regarding accessory dwelling units. They obviously do support the allowance of accessory dwelling units on street level, and they also support accessory dwelling units on a lower level. Some of the buildings have walkouts to the Riverwalk corridor along the Manistee River Channel, and those would be allowed as dwelling units also. The standards that were in the ordinance originally were replicated in this section here, as well as a few new provisions were put in place just to help clarify the allowance of the uses. The first thing we did was we wanted to define both street and ground floor level versus lower floor level, and because you have both, and you have we're trying to, and I don't think to be quite honest with you, the 3 or fewer steps, I think it needs to be probably 4 or fewer. I'm trying to count the steps like at the Ramsdale at TJ's Pub. There are a few buildings where you walk into and it's kind of like walking into a bi-level where you either go down or you go up immediately.
Right.
Step down, step down 2 steps, whatever it is. We need to figure out what that is so we can define whether those first couple steps up are street level and the next steps going down would be the lower floor level. And then the street level would also capture any floors that have a threshold that's level with River Street, and then the lower level would be anywhere where you are actually going down below 4 steps or more.
Rob, if I could interject, places like that, you may have to just address with a grandfather clause for existing, because that's a good example of, you've got a hotel basically starts on the 2nd floor and you've got a restaurant basically in the basement, but it's halfway between one and the other. It would skew it if for the rest of the street, if you tried to use that as a standard. You kind of get where I'm going?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I do get what you're saying, but I think by saying the 3 or more, 3 or fewer we're not limiting either of them. The street level, that's why I want to get the number right, because the street level, if we think of TJ's, how many steps is it down? I think it's 4.
4.
We need to go down there and check and be sure.
Yeah,
but that would still be considered ground level or street level.
Yeah.
But then if there was another level below TJ's, like if TJ's was on the other side of River Street, there could be another level even below that.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to prohibit that lower level below the street to having to have the first percentage of the business as commercial space.
Right.
There would be no reason to not allow them to have that whole low street level as livable dwelling area.
So you're probably talking about something like the Glicks building, Rob?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Yeah. So as we see, redevelopment occur, we don't want to prohibit that and say, that portion underground has to have commercial space.
Yeah.
It certainly could. I don't see why we can't say it can't have commercial space, but we shouldn't say that it has to. So it was figuring out the definition for both of those, and then defining a street ground floor accessory dwelling and a lower floor accessory dwelling, and basically referencing back to those first definitions. And that will clarify the ordinance a lot as we move forward with this language. So then moving from there, we would have to amend the Article 3 districts dimensional standards and use tables, putting both the dwelling street ground floor accessory and lower floor accessory as being permitted within the C3 districts. The DDA does support it as a permitted use, not a special use. I think staff feels strongly that it should be a permitted use as well. Not having to make someone go through a special use permit process or something like that. I think that just bodes well for that allowance and flexibility. And then going to Article 15, adding that they are street and lower level are permitted by right in those specific districts. That's where it was missing before in the section in the article before and in this article. And then placing the actual standards within section 1505 and 1506 and making the standards slightly different for street and ground floor accessory versus the lower floor. Now the biggest maybe probably points of contention that we're hearing about this is the maximum number of bedrooms. Mr. Taylor, the city manager, had brought up at the DDA meeting the recommendation of a maximum of 2 bedrooms. there's members of the DDA that don't want to limit the amount of bedrooms. Staff doesn't really feel very strongly one way or the other outside of having a minimum square footage requirement for the bedrooms, so we don't end up with some type of a hostile situation.
Right.
And so we were looking at, building codes and the allowance for how small a bedroom space can be. And remind me, if you would, Mike, is it 60 square feet was what we found?
The minimum?
Minimum, not that we put in here, but for building code.
I think it was 70 square feet.
70 square feet. I couldn't remember if it was 60 or 70. But in looking at some realistic bedroom sizes, we came up with 120 square feet. And then also mandating a common living area of the dwelling unit that is 300 square feet. So you're looking at a minimum floor area of 500 square feet. 300 of that has to be for your ground floor area, and that's defined as basically your or your core living area, excuse me. It's basically defined as your kitchen area, your living rooms, excluding your bathrooms and your closet, and then having a minimum square footage for your bedrooms. And we still have the maximum lot of bedrooms in there, but I think when we start talking about the minimum square footage that we have in here, that may just dictate the amount of bedrooms. I don't know if we need to, because some of those spaces are so small that I don't know if you're going to really be able to cram in, 5 or 6 bedrooms when you only have, you have 800 total square feet of usable area, and 200 of that, 300 of that needs to be for commercial space if it's on street level. They had originally put in here the first 20 feet. We changed that to a percentage. We cannot regulate by 20 feet when we have odd shaped buildings. I don't know why, I'll be honest, I don't know why that was ever recommended by whoever recommended it. It makes absolutely no sense. You're going to walk in a front door and almost hit a counter with a cash register on it. So I don't know where that came from, but it absolutely makes sense. And I'm going to take a hard line on that. This needs to be a percentage. We cannot do a depth. It's got to be a percentage of the space. Percentage of the space works for any shape. If we're going wide to the front to narrow the back, narrow at the front, wide to the back. I mean, that's the only rational way to actually look at this. I don't think a depth is going to work. And I personally don't support it, and I don't want to be administering an ordinance that has that, 'cause it's just going to be
you have to look at the available floor space and go with a percentage on it.
Exactly.
Right.
And Rob, just
I just threw 40 in there for a number, and we're open to any input on what the percentage should be. I just put 40 in there as a number.
Hey, Rob, just to clarify, it is 70 square feet with a minimum room shall not be less than 7 feet in any horizontal direction.
Right.
That is building code.
Yeah. And I would think that is a fair and reasonable standard, because again, when you start looking at some of the existing apartments, the bedrooms are not very large, and they're probably 9 by 9s. 80 square feet is probably more of the average. 100 and some is probably not obtainable for a lot of the existing bedrooms in the downtown. And most of them are 2 bedrooms. If you've ever been, in the day, there used to be a lot of people lived downtown. And those were all rented before. I knew people lived above Dick's Barber Shop and a lot of other places that no longer are available. But bedrooms weren't all that large. So I would think 100, and what you were saying, 110?
I think it has 120. Where these numbers are, they're not static by any means.
Oh, okay.
Just a discussion that Mike and I had in listening to the comments that had come from the DDA, the information that was in the previous notes for when this was put together, and just trying to come up with some number that could start the discussion. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe it's one of these things of I've only been into a couple of upstairs, excuse me, I'm having a hard time speaking tonight, upstairs livable spaces in downtown. And so I don't have the experience of the size of most of those rooms. And maybe
Is there an average for the total square footage of most of those buildings? At least one of the floors? Or are they all very different?
They're all very different. I mean, you have some
Okay.
buildings that are like 400 square feet, extremely narrow,
Yeah.
to some that are closer to 1,200 square feet.
Or
Or bigger.
Or bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So I
varies
like
from
the
building to
percentage
building
then.
downtown.
I mean, the number might, if you think like a 12 by 12 room is with a closet is too large of a room for up there, you know, maybe we could split the difference. It's up to you guys to help us decide this, but like a 10 by 10, I mean, we have to kind of lean on your institutional knowledge of what that looks like, to help us decide on where that should be. And by no means, you know, are we saying, or are we set on a 12 by 12? We just don't think it should be a 70 and meet the very minimum.
And
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you make it at 70 and we don't limit bedrooms, you're going to end up with some.
Well, and that would be my suggestion, is that we maybe do both. We put a, you know, a 80 square foot limitation and not to exceed 3 bedrooms. Because again, I can also understand that they don't want, you know, dormitories. You know, they don't want you know, 4
I
kids
like that,
renting an apartment.
Yeah,
So I
I
think-
like that idea better. Just a common area and not to exceed 3 bedrooms. I mean, I can't, just like you said, I can't see them turning this into, you know, short-term hospitality rentals with 6 bedrooms or something in there. So,
I don't know, 8 by 10 is a pretty small area to.
Right.
I know you're only sleeping in it, but moving around, 8
Yeah,
foot
it
is
is.
not that big.
no, you're right.
I would like to see a minimum of 10 by 10. That's 100 square feet.
Yeah, considering a bed is at least 6 foot long, so you're not getting a lot of.
Right. Like I said, the only concern that I have is how many are we going to be grandfathering, or are we? Because there's a lot of the apartments that currently exist that I'm pretty sure those bedrooms are not 10 by 10s.
No, there are a lot of 9 by 9 bedrooms and 8 by 10 bedrooms out there.
Right.
A lot.
So I would say 80 square feet would probably be more doable, but again, that's arbitrary. You know, again, I'm not.
So you also have to think about not what exists, because those will be grandfathered in. But during a remodel, or this is for lower story dwellings, which there shouldn't be any.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. That's a good. That is a good point. I was thinking more of this 3rd story existing.
So you guys can set whatever you want for a bedroom size here, and it might offer a bedroom that might be above them, and you know it just, you know, a 10 by 10, maybe that's the magic number. I was kind of leaning to splitting the difference on it. You know, 70 wasn't really what we wanted, but a 10 by 10 seems reasonable with like a 6 foot bed. You could put a bigger bed in there if you wanted to. You know, not everybody's my size. So, you know,
and we still build new homes with 10 by 10 bedrooms.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, you know, maybe it's you don't say 10 by 10 either. You say, you know, 100 square feet.
100 square feet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
And then, but we would like, if that's what you guys are comfortable with, that would set the standard for lower story dwelling bedrooms.
Okay.
And then we can move forward with that language.
Yeah.
And then get the public to weigh in on it. Now, I will say that some of the members of the DDA were interested in getting as many as they could in there, but that's why we also felt strongly about limiting that to a size.
Yeah.
So.
You get too many and you're going to have, like they said, a dormitory situation.
Are you looking for a recommendation now, Mike, on this, or do we wait?
Well, we would like to put the language in there. If you guys think a 10 by 10 is what you want, and you guys can agree on that.
Or 100 square foot.
100
square foot. Yeah.
You guys are in agreement.
Is the percentage of commercial space.
That's the other portion we have to
That's the
figure
other
out.
piece that we really need to take care of. And then also, you know, the core living area, 300 square feet. Does that make sense to everybody? The minimum floor area of 500 total square feet. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I like the percentage too. Like you said, if you have 1,000 square feet, then 400 of it has to be for storefront.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
I'd like
are
to
we
ask
gonna-
one thing. I'd like to ask one thing, is there two entrance and exits in these upper and lower? And what does the fire marshal say about if there's only one way to get in and out, about how many people in there for fire?
So lower story dwellings, just like are supposed to be, as per the original language I brought forward, have to have a separate entrance and exit, and they should be walled off from the commercial entity.
Yep, and that's still in there.
Yep.
And then you also have, all street, ground floor, accessory dwellings shall meet all applicable local, state, and federal building codes. So you're triggering that again right there, and both of those have that.
And really what we're trying to do is give them the opportunity to do this. Before, with the regulations they had, they couldn't. And there's just no way with the multiple dwelling, the way it was written, that I think maybe one or two buildings in the entire area, aside from maybe big residential houses, could do this. And that was something that we wanted to address too. And really, you got to look at the C3 district as a whole as well. A lot of the houses within there are being converted over to like duplexes, and some of these are transpiring through illegal uses.
Right.
They're already converted over, but it was never allowable.
Right.
So now when the building inspector goes in to inspect, like I'm thinking, I found one, but it's been in violation. It's very close to City Hall. It used to have a commercial entity in it. Now it's been turned over to residential. That was not allowed. So when the rental inspection program comes in, this should address some of this. We're going to be leaning heavy on this as far as the rental inspection and the building inspector to help us, put in some of these restrictions. But really, that is the best practice, is to have that good relationship that I feel that we have with the building department.
Right.
Okay, so what do you need from us, Mike?
I think Rob and me are trying to develop the language so we can have it sent over to George. So we wanted that percentage, the bedroom language, and then there was one other thing, wasn't there, Rob?
No, I got the one word I'm going to add is we have shall be accessed by secure entrance. I'm going to slip separate in there. I think the secure entrance implies separate, but I'm going to put separate.
Secure
as well.
and separate. Yeah.
And then, it has to meet all applicable local, state, and federal building codes. I think if you're comfortable with this, I'll put it into like an amending ordinance language. I will share it with the city manager and the city attorney.
Yep.
Mike and I are on a call tomorrow morning with with Mark Miller, who is the DDA director now, or Chamber is handling the DDA. So we'll get comments.
Right,
from
he's
Mark.
the interim anyways. So.
Interim, exactly. So I didn't know if there was a title given or anything, but we'll speak to Mark tomorrow morning about that and see if he has any further input. And I would like to knock this one off. Like I want to. I'm looking down the tunnel here, and I think I have some time to write all of your text amendments here in the next month. So like, I want to get all these text amendments have been sitting here since, last fall. I want to get these through before Christmas.
Yeah.
Because they're just floating out there. All this stuff's just floating out there. We have quite a few amendments that we need to deal with. I'm sitting right here.
Okay, so you need a recommendation on bedroom size?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the feelings of the commission?
I like 100 square feet.
100 square feet's good.
And not to exceed 3 bedrooms.
I like that too.
Yeah.
Not to exceed 3 bedrooms.
Marlene?
3 bedrooms.
I agree.
Okay, Bob?
We'll go with it.
Okay, I think Shelley's good. Pam?
Yep, I'm good. 100 square feet, not to exceed 3
100 square
bedrooms.
feet, and then the common area of 300 square feet?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, there's some doubt.
Yeah, there might be some areas where you would not get the minimum.
How about, what if we did this? What if we made it a common area of 300 feet or greater?
Mike?
You can say like, you can go bigger than
Mike,
that.
you froze.
Well, that's what it says.
Oh, does it
Yeah.
say that? Okay, I'm
It does.
sorry.
Living
Yeah.
area of lower floor accessory dwelling should be a minimum of 300 square
Oh,
feet.
it's minimum. I thought you put, I'm sorry.
No, no, not
No.
maximum. No, minimum.
No, minimum.
Minimum. We're not. This isn't the Seinfeld episode where we're sleeping.
Tired man, I'm sorry.
So we're good with that, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And then the percentage of commercial area was the last part of that. And you guys agreed on 40%?
Yeah, I like the 40.
I like 40%.
40 is good.
Yeah. Works.
Nick?
Yeah, I agree. Are we addressing any kind of a minimum on that side of the building? Or are we just saying it's got to be 40% of the total?
At least 40%
of the total building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has to be designated to commercial use.
Of the floor.
Yeah.
The floor. I was just going to ask that. 40%
Of the
floor.
ground floor.
Yeah, so this is lower story dwelling again portion of it. So.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, because the configuration of that lower floor could force you to have the 40% on one side and not the other, not just.
Right.
Yeah, that's
just the
very
front and
true.
back.
And then you could have a separate entrance on it too if you wanted to.
Yeah, it can be
And
long
then you
and
could,
skinny.
you
Yep.
could even, yeah. So yeah. You guys got it.
Okay.
So we're good with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Rob, you were trying to talk about something on the elevation of the lower level, like you were talking with TJ's.
Yeah, I just
Can
wanted
you put
to.
it something like within so many feet of the main street out in front of the building?
Okay.
Upper, so many feet there, upper, higher, or lower to be consider for that.
Okay.
That would take in the
I like
3 or 4
that.
steps.
You
Yeah,
have
we
to,
just refer to it as an elevation
yeah.
and so many feet of the threshold elevation
What, like
Yeah.
three,
of the
3,
street.
4 feet?
What's that?
Like 3 or 4 feet, you think?
Whatever the depth. I'm trying to think. But
TJ's,
TJ's
there's
is the
something
one
there.
that steps
There's,
down.
it's the only one.
It is, isn't it? I mean, there's
Yeah.
a couple others where you step.
There's a couple others.
There's a few where you're stepping up a couple of steps, but TJ's is the only one where you're going down.
Yeah, but you still got to work. If you got one going up, you still got to follow the same
Right.
kind of recommendations. So
Right. Yep.
it's within a certain distance of the baseline elevation.
But we'll drive around there and see if there's anything over like 3 steps or 4 steps, and then we'll put it in there.
Trying to
The
think.
only thing I'm worried about is some of those side buildings, like the one by the Manistee Art Institute on the left side there that they're renovating. It's got upper story dwellings, but there is a ground floor, like a basement level on there with a separate exit, but it's quite a ways down. So, this will allow that to do that.
Oh, Matheson's building?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I know
That
they're
was a
renovating.
game room at one time. When I was a kid, it was an arcade for a short time down
Yes,
in
it
that
was.
basement.
There's and a pool hall.
Yep.
They had games that far back, Mick?
Yeah, well, they weren't electrified though.
Okay.
They had little steel balls that ran around.
Mark, it's after 9.
Okay.
A lot after
Yeah,
9.
No, I've been watching.
All right.
We're at overtime.
I'll pay you later. Just send me your time card.
It's already on the way.
Okay, I figured. I'll buy you a beer. So. Okay, so we're good with that.
Zoe, I
and
like your mood lighting, by the way.
You like that? I'm sitting
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
enjoying the breeze. So
We're in the deer.
there are like 20 deer in the backyard. Yeah.
If I hear a shot,
You won't hear it.
okay, good.
Just bring us to venison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got a silencer.
Something's grunting at me over here. So
No. Fences and patios.
That's all placeholders. So
Okay.
really, it's right on down to the dumpster portion of it.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So I reached out to the dumpster. I'm sorry, I can't think of their name in the city. The people that do the dumpsters. I can't think of their names.
Republic.
Republic.
Thank you. And they understand where we're coming from, and just let them know what was going on. I've reached out and acquired a mailing list of potential dumpsters. And the next question is basically, do you guys want to pay for a mass mailing? to dumpster holders, letting them know that regulation is coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think
Yes.
that's
The only
important.
way to cover it, because
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
say that they don't
They guess
want
they
the
say
website or get the paper.
So the only way I think we could do this, because we don't really have purse strings, is to reach out to city council and request the funds to do that. And I don't know how that typically works. Mick, you might be able to weigh in on that.
I would suggest just going to Thad and have that. It's just the city expense. I don't think it has to go to city council for a mailing, to be
Okay.
honest. I think
That's
Thad,
how I'll handle it.
Thad
You know, I'm not,
or
it
Mr.
wasn't,
Bradford just come up with, just tell them how much money you think you're gonna need for the mailing of this.
okay.
Probably don't
It's-
need any more
Or
than,
even get the stuff to them, let the city mail it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll probably provide the letter, because if we do it, we charge separately, but I'll let city staff do it with, but we'll probably provide the mailing list.
the mailing list. Yeah. How many are on the mailing list? Just out of curiosity.
Well, some of them have multiple.
Yeah.
But I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head. I basically looked through it as far as like dumpster sizes and stuff like that, but I didn't deal like real deep into it. So
And these are all permanent, correct? That we're sending out.
yeah, these are, I mean, some are movable. So if you have like the 3 feet or the 3 square feet ones, they're on rollers, but per our ordinance, that's not allowed. So they have to be put somewhere.
Right.
So,
Okay.
just letting you know that, I'll be moving forward with that. So with your guys' recommendation to do so. So.
all right. Good. All right. We're gonna move along. Public comments, communication. If there's anyone left with public that would like to say something, we have 3 minutes. Name and address, please.
All right, I'm going to start with public number 1. Public number 1.
They're not coming off the.
Yeah, I've asked him to unmute.
I'm clicking it too.
Yeah. Public number 1, do you have anything to add on here? All right.
You're muted.
I'm going to ask twice more and then I'm going to move on. Public number 1, do you have anything else to add? All right, last time. Public number 1, do you have anything else to add? All right, moving on to public number 2. Public number 2, do you have any comment?
They're unmuted.
Yep.
Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, thank you. Pass.
What's that? You passed? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Then we move on to public number 4. Public number 4, do you have a comment?
It's Catherine.
Yes, I just want to thank,
Whoa.
I don't know.
Reverb through speakers.
Turn that off. Is that better?
No, still there.
I just want to thank the Public Commission, for the Planning Commission for all the work that they're putting into the short-term rentals. And I hope to be a part of the continuing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go to public number 5. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, Kip Pomeranke, 361 8th Street. And I just want to talk about the short-term rental thing just really, really quick. And I wouldn't mind if you spoke about it again being on the agenda, just because I would like to have somebody who started running one to have some input possibly, or to at least give you some ideas maybe about why I did it and how it works. Maybe
What else was said?
because I think to differentiate between somebody who just buys a house to do nothing but short-term rentals and somebody who has a seasonal home, and then somebody who rents a part of their home, should kind of be differentiated again between, I think. So that's pretty much all I have for right now, but I would just like to maybe explain why we did it and how it works, and let you know that there are some standards that are applied to the people who stay and to us as well.
Okay. And one thing I will, we make ourselves available, at least staff does, to help coordinate that. So if you would like to to provide more information on that, we would, you know, be more than welcome to have you on the agenda for the October 1st.
All right, that sounds great. I will, I have your phone number, Mike, so if I just give you a call and then we can go from there.
Yeah, one thing I do ask is anything that you're going to present to the Planning Commission is that you give it to us at least 2 weeks in advance. And I asked for 2 weeks because I know people run up against deadlines and it sometimes goes over, but it still gives me a little wiggle room to get you on the agenda. And that way they have a chance to read it over.
Oh, sure thing. I'll put something, I'll give you something. After I talk to you, I'll get your email address and I'll lay out a whole thing that I'll send to you ahead of time.
Excellent.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Public number 8. Public number 8.
You can raise your hand.
Oh, public number 1. There we go. Public number 8.
Oh, public number 1 unmuted.
All right. Public number 1, if public number 8's with you and would like to speak, by all means.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. It's Suzanne Riley. Of course, I had to run to the restroom the minute you called on me. So I just wanted to thank you guys, you know, the entire Planning Commission. I'd like to be put on the agenda for your next meeting. And I'll just address it at that time.
Okay. And like I said before, I don't know if you heard me, Suzanne, was please get your stuff to us at least two weeks before the October 1st meeting.
Okay.
So I can add it to the agenda packet and then they can review it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne.
And public number 12, do you have comment?
I pass.
All right. That is completes our public comment.
Okay. Correspondence. Township of Filer master plan completed.
So it was in your packet. You guys received the letter that Township of Filer has completed their master plan. They have a link on there for you to review it. That is just the correspondence we received. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. And
yours disappeared off the screen.
Well, I'm
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Public number 11 was on. She disappeared. I just caught a little heck about it.
If it's up to the chair to allow, you know, public number 11 to speak. So,
but yeah, I don't see her on the list.
Go ahead if she has a comment or that person has a comment. So
Let me go over.
or is that Linda?
It's Linda.
It is.
Okay.
That's why he was catching
Can't talk.
I'm getting her over here.
Hi, I'm public number 11.
That's your Robert Solinsky.
And I live at 256 Hughes Street. I'm on city council representing the 2nd district. I just want to remind everybody, I know you've worked really hard and I know that the binders that you have for zoning is about 2 inches thick. If you'll notice, they all are numbered by articles. The codified ordinances are numbered by chapters. Chapter 1482 of the codified ordinances does deal with the certificate of compliance, which is the inspection for rental units, and dwellings means any house or apartment, including most often short-term rentals. Example, Airbnb, bed and breakfast, etc., which are wholly or partly used or intended to be used for living, sleeping, cooking. So we do have at least something in there, and it is a civil violation not to register. So the biggest problem I see is, I think we've got great input from you all tonight about going forward on how you want the ordinances to look, and you know, these need to be fleshed out more obviously from what I've seen and heard tonight. But we really need to get a handle on what we actually have in the city. And I'm glad that Mike had mentioned the host compliance company. I actually did take the time to listen to their seminar that they offered. And I was amazed at finding out that the average rate going in the city of Manistee is $189 a night. And there's a 63% increase over last year in number of short-term rentals around the city. And what I really like about this company, I want you to really consider this, is that they have the software and the technology to shift through all of the different websites where rentals are advertised so that they can identify all of them. And if you buy a house here in the city and decide to use it as a short-term rental, you're going to put it on several different websites in order to get listings and fill out the season. They have a way to look at these, track them, identify them, and boil it down to what unit it is. So I think we need to think about at least using a service like that to get a baseline. I know that the rentals are a problem on the north side. We've heard from Harbor Village residents who are very upset that there's an inordinate amount of people occupying a rental, and they bring lots of cars and they're blocking access to other condo owners. So I was delighted that we had at least one resident from the north side speak up earlier in the meeting. And it is a problem. It's a good problem and a bad problem, and we need to keep talking about it, and we need to keep working together. So I appreciate your time on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, number 11.
You're welcome.
All right. Are we completed with the public comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Shelley just wanted to let you know she did, her phone died on her, so she won't be, I don't think she's going. It was a long meeting.
She was enjoying the outside.
Sir, that's what you get for not having near a charger, I guess. Just also comment on, we have, are we moving into staff reports real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Just a comment on the host compliance, again, is that's more the enforcement aspect of it. And, from what I've seen, it is a very good software. I also recommend that there be some part of regulation in there that says, just so we know when the license are issued out as part of whatever enforcement, to know that they are legal, is to have on the second picture of your listing the license to operate within the city. I don't think that would be unheard of, your second or third picture, to basically have your license up there on your listing, saying and have it clearly visible, and the expiration date visible as well as all the numbers. It should be clearly. But host compliance kind of does that from an algorithm standpoint, and then they also provide services of they'll write the initial letter that you're not in compliance. There are other aspects of it. I think it is definitely something the city should look at or look into. I do know that the price on it can be a little bit of a drawback for certain entities. Like I know Ludington, they limited theirs to 30, and they were quoted by host compliance for, I believe, $10,000 to do their enforcement on it, the initial enforcement that would still be incorporated with your police department. And they felt with the 30 that they were regulating or allowing, they wouldn't be able to recoup that cost, and decided to keep it internally. So yeah, while a great program, depending on the numbers that are decided upon, it has to make fiscal sense. You're not trying to allow these technically, these short-term rentals in these neighborhoods without, at a cost to the city, just to allow somebody to rent their house on a short-term basis and it is fiscally, as we've shown, they wouldn't be doing if they weren't making money. So saying that, I will touch on the Hillcrest development. We have that in there to let you guys know that there was some in-house amendments that were done to the Hillcrest development. Some buildings were all considered minor amendments that we could approve. They were reduced from 5 buildings down to 4. The height decreased, and the circulation within the development changed from like kind of an S-shaped into coming off of Short Street with like a U-shaped, and coming off of Ford Street as originally shown. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that. So these were all considered minor amendments that we could approve in-house. We are waiting on some of the information on that as far as utilities, and we're having them look at them again. But as long as there's nothing drastic that would violate that, it shouldn't have to come back before you. We just wanted to make you aware, so when it goes up and it starts being developed, you guys weren't like, well, that's not what we thought we approved. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Question.
Now, what's the total number of apartments?
I would have to look at it. It was one reduction of building. Rob, do you know off the top of your head?
45. Can you hear
What?
me? 45. It was
45. That's
reduced,
okay.
it was reduced from 55 to 45. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Is this a workforce housing or low income development?
Workforce.
Workforce.
It is called, the appropriate term would be market rate. 80% of the units are based on the market rate of the individual applying for the apartment. At least 80% or 70%. So the remaining 20-30 are, they'd probably be the high level, top levels of the Hillcrest apartments, and they will likely have a view of Lake Michigan, I would assume. Lake Michigan, maybe
The
Manistee.
reason I ask that is that they, on our local radio station 97.7, they were calling it low income housing.
Yeah, it is not.
It's not a low income development.
Okay.
Nope.
Unless low income is $700 to $900 a month, then I mean, that's what you're looking at. Those the low end apartments there are going to be
Around
$700
$700
or something like that. I mean, it's not low income.
Yeah, I didn't think it was, but
now maybe people are confusing the HUD units on the river that are in the Housing Commission, under control of the Housing Commission, are going to be revitalized at some point in the future here. Staff was in discussion with the Housing Commission director and their architectural team, and they are doing they're going to be doing renovations to those. Those are low income.
Yeah.
And so that maybe that's what's confusing, but the revisions and renovations they're going to be doing to those structures are all contained within the structure, so they don't have to come before us for any type of permitting.
Okay. All right.
Is that Century Terrace that you're referring to?
Yep.
Yes.
I couldn't think of the name. Century Terrace, and then what's the other one next?
Harborview.
Yeah, Harborview.
Beirut Hotel.
So we wanted to make you guys aware of that. So, if it looked different when it was developed out, you guys weren't like, well, what happened? It was a developed decision that we handled, and we didn't want to push it further to push it further out. We also have the citizen planner. So if you guys recall, I know not everybody, but a lot of you took some training in January around the 30th of this year. And around the same time, citizen planner got a new person who was in charge of maintaining the program. I've reached out to them probably 3 or 4 times and asking them for an update on where we're at with it, who needs training, when they're available. And they basically came back and asked us to provide a sign-in sheet of who was at the training, and Nancy's, put it together, and I think we have it now. But I know Roger had been asking me about it, about his continuing education and if he was up to date. And I just want to give you guys an update on what happened, so that I know your training might be coming up, but I don't have a real good grasp of where you're at yet until I send that over to them probably tomorrow, and then let them know that, hey, this is now who needs training after this, and we'll go from there.
Marlene? I don't know.
Okay.
Marlene, were you in that training?
I didn't attend January, but I would like to continue with that.
Okay, I will make a note of that, and we will push that forward and find out where we're at. We can get an actual status update from the citizen planner people, and then we'll move forward with the continuing education and scheduling that.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the time, I think with the coronavirus, they didn't have a place to go to watch that, and I don't do computer.
We held it. That was the one we held at the planning department in the conference room.
Yeah, we did two different sessions here, and
Did you
watched.
participate in that one? Trying to think, huh?
I don't remember Marlene being there in January. I was there.
I know Pam and Mark were there. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think Roger was there as well.
I had to
I
work,
was
so I
there.
couldn't make it.
I was there because they brought pizza back.
That's
Oh,
right.
that's right.
Okay. She knew
Yep.
that. That clears it for me. That's all I have for the staff reports.
Okay.
Rob, do you have anything? Rob?
I'm just thinking. I was looking at the non-motorized plan here, seeing if I was going to share it, but we're not going to do that because it's late.
Right.
Save it for next month.
Mike and I have we have finished up the non-motorized plan to the point that it is ready to go. I sent out a couple copies to people to look at, and we've been frantically Mike has been trying to get the website built, because with this whole pandemic issue, like the goal was to, when we originally finished the plan in the spring, was to try to hold like a big meeting at the high school and do a large presentation, invite the whole community, and try to get good input. And it's not going to happen. And so we were like, okay, let's wait until the county's new website is up and running, so we have a good platform to put it on, steer everybody to that, and then we'll go from there. Well, that was under the idea that the county was going to be hiring web designers to design the county website. Instead, you're looking at the primary web designer with a map on his back wall and the secondary web designer right here. And with all of our other duties, it's just been tough. But the website's substantially getting complete, and I think tomorrow Mike and I can get the plan on there, several different formats, so that you can view it electronically. You'll be able to download it. And then I will do a massive email to everybody. I'm basically going to put my whole address list into an email and send it out to everybody, because that's the only way I know how to reach as many people as possible. We'll be calling Ariel with the News Advocate to give her the story on it so that it can get into the newspaper. And then we'll be soliciting feedback, and hopefully we can start taking it to the communities around the Manistee Lake area that are contained within the plan. This plan does meet the requirements for a 5-year park and recreation plan for the state of Michigan. So if we can get everybody to formally adopt this with a resolution, if a community is not willing to adopt it, we're going to pull their input. We're going to pull them out of the plan so that we can get it approved by the state, because this is how we get grants. And so we think everybody will adopt it. We're hopeful, but we'll see what happens once they review it.
We hope.
Yep. So, yeah, with that, look for an email. Mike, we'll get it done tomorrow and up on the website.
I'll get it on the website tomorrow. So
we got to sit down and finish that. So
we'll put a link in the email. It's not going to take me that long to figure it out. It's just finding time. And I'll be honest with you.
That's why I'm being honest that a lot's been added to both of our job descriptions that's not in our job descriptions. And I mean, it's been tough on us. I'm going to be quite honest with you. We've been working excessive hours, and I mean, we sit here, we watch everybody leave from across the street at the courthouse, and we keep on working. So not that we want to cry about it or anything, we just want that honesty to be out there. We're trying to get everything done that we can. And obviously the work for you guys and the County Planning Commission is the most important. So that's what's taking precedence. Getting permits out, getting site plans approved, getting text amendments done, that sort of stuff is what's taking the precedence. And we're getting a little heat from the county for not getting our website done. But at the same time, I'm like, hire a website designer. Or maybe pay both of us about $10,000 more, and then we'll stay more hours than we're ever salaried. So there's a couple options. I hope there's county board members maybe read these minutes. But that's about what I have to say.
Okay.
I mean, I could go on. There's a ton of stuff going on, but let's so.
Oh, I did want to add one more thing before, so I apologize for this. But I think it's important. On the 8th, you guys have a work session, Mick, at the Ramsdale. I've invited you all to it. I will say this again. That plan has to come through the Planning Commission. So I'm happy that they're sharing it with City Council. I think that's a great thing. But in the end, that plan comes before you guys to make the decisions. So do not get worked up about whatever's shown there. In the end, keep it calm and realize it's coming before you. So I will say that. So.
Hey, Mike, can I get a copy of that if possible?
We do not have a formal.
We don't have anything yet.
From what I understand, all this is an update on the conceptual plan.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see it.
Yeah, and I think, if the Michigan, I think basically they've taken the Michigan State Gateway project and they've added now where they actually have a footprint to work from. And I don't know it's gotten much further than that, but we'll see. But I don't know any more about it than that. Pardon?
Is Eugene putting it on? Who's putting it on?
I'm not sure.
I just wanted to share that because I know it's been voiced many times, where is it at with this Planning Commission? And when it finally came up on the City Council's agenda, I know I didn't want you guys feeling like, well, what's going on? Why is it going there and not to us? It is coming.
Questioning that.
It is coming. I just, it has to come through you guys. So know that. And
typically, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but typically and I think I'll express this to Mr. Taylor and probably and Mr. Miller. In my experience, previously, when big developments were coming forward, we held joint sessions between Planning Commission and City Council. And then everybody was introduced to the concept at once. We actually used to hold joint sessions. This was a requirement in North Carolina to have special use permit public hearings actually take place before both Planning Commission and City Council, or it was County Board, but between the City Plan or County Planning Commission and County Board, and then the Planning Commission would then go to a different room and deliberate. That way you took the politics out of it. But that way both groups heard the same information at the same time. I would have liked a presentation of the Planning Commission, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
So.
I'm not disagreeing, but at the same time, or a joint session.
Yeah, joint session. The more transparency, the better.
I think that I invited you guys for a reason. I think you should hear it at the same time.
Right. And this is only a working group. This is just information, basically. So
I understand that. Developments coming in, they have to go through the Planning Commission.
Yep.
That's my concern is this is a PUD that you are the authority on. You're the ones who are going to approve it.
Right.
And if there's some issues with that are sticking points with you, and we told the development team this, the sooner we can get it out in front of you prior to having a public hearing during preliminary drafts, the more money that's going to be saved and the more time that's going to be saved. I'm all about doing this in a fiscally responsible manner for both the city as well as the development team, and that is the proper way to do it. I mean, I've been a part of some major developments in much bigger communities than this, similar to what we're going to see here, and actually some stuff that was larger than this. And that's the experience that I had bringing from there. But I'll leave it at that.
At any rate, I strongly encourage everybody to go. I've reached out and asked if there's a form that attendees have to fill out. And I will be providing that for you guys to fill out if you plan on attending. If you don't plan on attending, or if you do, please let me know so I can make sure everybody's covered.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we're getting towards the bewitching hour, so member discussion. Marlene, do you have anything?
Yes, I just wanted to point out one thing. When we're putting together on that short-term rental, I don't remember any kind of discussion on the amount of people able to rent in one house. I like if there are 2 or 3 bedrooms. I know they'll say, well, they're all family, and they could end up with 20 or 30 people in a home. And I just wondered how that will be addressed.
It's addressed in the Ludington plan through a max occupancy set by the fire code and the building inspector. I've said I would like that more. One of the things that I said I would like to see is it clearly defined in the definition of what that is. So if you picked it up, you would know. A max occupancy is also a requirement of when they apply for it, they list it. So that's also in the Ludington plan. And that's how they decided to try to address it. I'd like it a little more clearly defined. That's my recommendation, but at the same time, I see why they did it. They let the inspector come through and define what it is.
Okay, that's all I had to comment.
All right, thank you, Marlene. Pam?
No, I'm done.
Okay. Kelly?
I'm done.
Okay, Bob?
Good night.
Okay. Nick?
Hey, I just want to say, Rob, Mike, you guys really are doing a great job, and I know you probably don't hear it as often as you should, but I know you really are doing a lot of work, and I know from what I've seen from you guys, good work, and like I said, you certainly do have a lot of steaks on the grill right now, so hopefully you can get a couple of them fed to the appropriate people.
We appreciate that, Mick. We actually hear some good compliments from the applicants that we work with. Very good compliments, but you know, sometimes there's a lot of rumor mill around town. You know, but we got thick skin, so whatever. Yeah. We're fine with it. I just wish all those steaks were, you know, really nice ribeyes. Tough as hell and burnt to a crisp.
You don't want hockey pucks?
No.
All right. I just want to thank Nancy, Rob, and Mike for the work, and all the commissioners for going through the agenda and all the comments. And if anybody's left in the public, thank you. Time now is 10:12, and I'd like to adjourn this meeting. So ask for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I missed happy hour.
All right.
Start now.